In a day not unlike any other, the peace everyone thought would last forever was shattered with the appearance of the dungeons. Everyone was terrified when the goblin testosterone appeared in the middle of the city. Hundreds of creatures emerged, bringing fear. However, just as despair arrived, hope appeared. People awakened as entities called hunters, and the new materials that fell from the monsters made humanity prosper. And that's how the world of hunters began. But our protagonist is different from everyone else. We see him at the Hunters Association, and the girl at the reception says it's the first time she's seen someone with a worker class. The guy was born to be a slave. In this world, everyone only has combat classes. He's the first to have something that's not useful for combat. She asks, "You don't have any skills or talents?" He, somewhat embarrassed, replies that he doesn't. We then see a shop for hunters in Sector 7. Our protagonist, Ujiha, is receiving customers. They say they came to get some potions, but the girl points at him right away and says, "Wait, aren't you that guy with the worker class?" He awkwardly says yes. She then asks, "Is it true you don't have any skills?" The guy next to her reprimands her, saying, "Don't say that, stop." He looks at the protagonist and says, "Sorry," she's a bit lost. The protagonist says it's okay and that she didn't say anything wrong. He really doesn't have any special skills. Because of this, he doesn't hunt. He just stays in the background collecting resources. With that, the girl says she understands. And the guy says she shouldn't have asked. Some tanks pass by on the street, and everyone knew it must be at least a rank 3 dungeon that appeared. The guy says, "Damn, I wish I could participate in one of those." She replies, "With our skills, forget it. Not nearly enough." Our protagonist, observing, just thinks about how difficult something like that must be. The people leave, and he says arigato. He wonders how much resource must be in a place like that. However, obviously he's never going there. It's been 5 years since he awakened. He received this worker class, but it has nothing. No skill, no special characteristic. That's why when he goes to the dungeons, he stays in the background. As soon as everyone kills everything, he goes in and picks up the leftovers. Does it pay well? No. But it's enough just for him to pay the bills for the month and keep this place open. And do what he likes most, which is reading books. Whenever the shop is empty, he picks one up and reads. But that day, he got sleepy. He thought maybe it was because the book was too difficult to understand. And boom, he fell on the table. But the book shone and he went inside. Our boy wakes up with a leaf falling on his face and gets up all startled. What is this place? Wait, it's definitely not a dream. Is it an illusion? Can I open my status window? He opens it. Nothing special. But this forest looks a bit strange. I don't hear any animal sounds and I can't see anything because of this dense fog. All I can see are those little sprouts there. Looks like a fruit. He approaches, confused, saying, "I've never seen anything like this." Ether herb. Makes the consumption of ether for any skill 0 for 10 seconds. Is this description real? If this were true, it would be a very good item. Ether in this world is basically mana. It's the energy people use to cast skills. So an item that allows you to basically have infinite energy for 10 seconds would be incredible. He keeps looking, thinking if only he could get the liquid from these herbs. Too bad I didn't bring any bottles with me. Right in front of him, there's a leaf on a branch that kind of catches his attention. He decides to take a closer look. Apparently it was in a lake. He got some water and poured it on top. With that, out of nowhere, a skill appeared. You're a friend of plants level 1. Blessing of the unknown. Jihat is confused. It's the first skill he has received in 5 years as a hunter. And all he did was water the plant, which suddenly started growing roots into the ground. He thought it was going to become gigantic, but it disappeared in front of him. With that, he woke up back in the shop out of nowhere and thought it had all been a dream. The strange thing is, it was so realistic. Then he realizes his hand is covered in mud, so the dream was real. He wonders, could it be that when I'm sleepwalking, I slept here in the shop and went out collecting mud? No way. Or did I somehow actually get transported to that forest when I fell asleep? Considering this is now the world of hunters, it wouldn't be impossible. He decides to test it again. He dozes off once more and wakes up in the forest again. However, he notices the place looks bigger and all the fog is gone. He starts to think this might be a personal dungeon that only he can enter when he sleeps. And he had never heard of this kind of power. Then he sees a solar apple, a fruit that when mixed with a healing potion increases healing by 20% and reduces cooldown by 8%. Jiha knows potions are the most used items in dungeons. However, the ones available at most heal 10% of health and have a long cooldown. The taste is also terrible. Looking at the apples, he's astonished. There aren't just 1 or 2, there are a bunch of solar apples. He has an idea. What if he makes a potion using the solar apple and that herb that gives infinite energy for 10 seconds? He thinks taking 1 or 2 things from here is okay, right? But where will he store them? At that moment, a bag falls on his head out of nowhere. A dimensional bag? He doesn't suspect anything, just accepts it since now he can carry things. Clearly, it seems someone is watching him. After that, he decides to return to the shop. The next day, we see another shop, one of the more expensive ones for hunters. Everyone goes there to buy potions, but they're out of stock, until someone looks behind and says, "Hey, that woman, Hyjin, the sword witch." The shop owner comes over, all flustered, and says, "Hyjin, I didn't know you were coming." But she quickly responds, "I came because you haven't been answering me. The potion I asked for yesterday, where is it?" The guy, embarrassed, replies, I'm sorry, but your potion is still being prepared. Could you wait a bit? She says she can't. She has a major dungeon in 30 minutes. With that, she pulls out her phone to see if there's any shop nearby. Meanwhile, our boy is playing Heisenberg in production. He mixed purified water, Undane's tears, and the other herb. He says it's going to be insane. Now, he just needs to add the solar concentration into the rotating tube. Downing the potion, the system notifies him. Due to the blessing of the unknown, a verdict of great success has been applied. You have acquired Alchemy Level 1, Special Potion. The duration of unlimited skill usage has increased from 10 seconds to 14 seconds. Additionally, it restores 14% of health over 15 seconds. Far better than all the others. He's already stunned. Wait, an alchemist? Not even the guys who call themselves alchemists have alchemist skills. He's never even heard of a 14-second healing potion. Shaking it, he realizes it's an excellent potion. However, he's not very capitalistic. He doesn't even know how much to charge. The product is so good that it's hard to sell. Not to mention, who's going to believe that ether consumption drops to 0 for 14 seconds? Who, you ask? She's already entering the shop. Hi, Jin. Our boy immediately asks, how can I help you? She gets straight to the point. Potion. How many do you have? I want them now. Before he can respond, she gets closer. This is a health potion, isn't it? He says yes. But before he can say anything else, she asks what its effect is. He tries to explain that it's not for sale, but she cuts him off again. Sorry, but I don't have time. She grabs it and leaves. Wow, what just happened? She left some money on his table, saying, if that's not enough, call my guy to Crest. They'll pay more. Bye. The warrior has already arrived at the dungeon, drawn her swords, killed 3 beasts, and is already running. That's productivity. The guys who collect the items for her are a bit embarrassed. This is the power of a rank 12. They can't even see what's happening. However, the one in white says, but this way we won't evolve at all. The other guy says, friend, it's the sword witch. Even if you wanted to, you wouldn't evolve. Just collect the resources and stay quiet. But then comes the drama and the guy says, I understand her too. If it were the old Hyjin, she would have definitely told us to hunt together. But since that incident, she's changed completely and hunts alone. The other guy asks, what incident? And he responds, well, you probably don't know because you're a beginner. Right at that moment, Hyjin appears, telling them to run. They seem confused, but soon see it. A manstalker. An aversion level creature, extremely armored and with powerful poison. The two are already shocked. Why is an aversion level creature here? They only appear in level 4 dungeons. Hyjin continues, I told you to run, get out of here. She charges at the beast, drawing her greatsword. But the beast defends and strikes, leaving her trembling. Damn, I've already used all my ether. At least I bought time for them to escape. The two guys are also running at a snail's pace. She thinks if only Sunyuk were here, but she's motivated. No, he's no longer here. Now I can only rely on myself and this potion. She drinks it all and is confused. It's the first time she's had such a delicious potion. Not to mention she feels her ether is increasing significantly. Now she can win this. She goes back into the fight, using the tumult of the sword, slashing and cutting relentlessly. The beast is divided and falls hard to the ground. However, she immediately notices, wait, something's wrong. My health is recovering and I felt my ether wasn't decreasing. I managed to use the sword tumult for 10 seconds straight. Normally I use it for a maximum of 3. Could it be because of that potion? Who is that guy from the shop? Ma'am, she doesn't waste time. In the next second, she's opened the door and entered. You, she asks, that potion, what was that? Our boy is completely confused. The guys in the back are talking and it looks like everyone knows she killed the manstalker alone. She apologizes for being rude. Our boy says it's okay, but was there a problem with the potion he gave? She says yes. She's never seen a potion that heals 14% of health and reduces ether cost. Our boy, being Maeve, says, I heard you killed an aversion level creature alone. Incredible. She bangs on the table. That's not the point. That potion you gave me, where did you get it? Or did you make it yourself? He shows her the apple and says, I used this. She asks, this? Yes, a solar apple I found by chance in a level 0 dungeon. She asks, a solar apple in a level 0 dungeon? As far as I know, this item isn't that common. Our boy obviously doesn't want to tell anyone he has the Forest of Abundance. Well, I'm glad my potion helped you, he says, trying to change the subject. She points to the side and asks, what's that? He replies, it's an ice resistance potion. She wants to know the effect. Awkwardly, he says, I think it gives 32% ice resistance for 40 minutes. She's stunned again. The best potions on the market offer 10% resistance for a maximum of 15 minutes. This one is like 10 times better. So she wants to know where he found this. Our boy remembers that when he was in the garden world, he found some winter strawberries and used them to make the potion. His alchemy is already at level 2. He says again, yeah, I found it in the level 0 dungeon. She realizes right away that he's lying and says, I won't ask where anymore since it makes you uncomfortable, but sell everything to me. Everything, he asks. She throws money on the table, saying, I'll pay in cash. I don't even want a receipt. Our boy says it's too much money. She walks away saying it doesn't matter. However, she asks his name. Our boy says it's Jiha. She thinks and says it's a beautiful name. Looking all sweet, she replies, "See you next time, Jiha." The scene then shifts to our boy back in the forest. Each time he's returning with more stuff. However, he starts to question. This place is very strange. There are so many rare resources and no monsters at all. Where am I? He hears some movement nearby. Slowly, he walks to see what it is. He says he's sure something was around here. When he sees it, there's a beetle called a pterodrone, a mythical monster, a creature the size of a small car that resembles a beetle, with giant claws. Our protagonist recognizes the creature instantly. However, strangely, they are very small here. They're supposed to be car-sized. He wants to pass, but there's some barrier protecting them. Then some evil ants appear, and the little creatures start fighting. Our boy watches and says, "Why are they killing each other?" The problem is that these demon ants are extremely dangerous. But again, they are supposed to be the size of a truck, but they're small here. However, he sees the pterodrones being crushed, all crying. Our protagonist wonders, why are they fighting? And at this rate, they will lose. Can I help? The system then gives a notification. The war between your pterodrones and the demon ants has begun. Do you want to help your legion? Yes or no? Our protagonist, what? I can intervene in this? Even stranger, it says, my pterodrones. Well, if that's the case, then yes. Your legion is losing. You can use an essence buff to improve the chances of victory. Increase HP by 30% for 1 hour. Increase poison resistance. Increase physical resistance. Or the worker's blessing, which costs 2 essences. Our boy thinks he understands and says, I can't help directly, but I can provide assistance. Walking around, he had found these essences used for buffs, and he has just 2. Since the last auction is more expensive, it's probably the best. So he applies the worker's blessing. The little creatures feel the energy flowing into them. Empowered, they start smashing all the ants. They quickly win, and our boy is delighted. Wow, this is crazy. He approaches the pterodrones and thanks them for defending the forest. However, the cute little creatures start giving him lots of essence. He gives a little smile, and the creature looks a bit confused. He only takes 5, saying they can keep the rest. This is more than enough for me, he says. After all, they were the ones who fought for their lives. With that, the wall and the fog in the place disappeared. He thinks, I was planning to stay here for just a bit today, but it looks like I won't be leaving anytime soon. The next chapter begins by talking about the Hunter's website and the various communities that were created when all this started. Currently, the sword witch, Hyjin, is ranked 12, and we see some users discussing the possibility of her killing that creature alone being a lie. Until someone turns on the light and asks, are you a zombie girl? That's Chuhyun, the top alchemist of the Flame Guild. The redhead says she can concentrate better when it's dark, but asks if he managed to solve what she asked him to. He says he went in person. The guy is a hunter with the lowest rank of all. No special characteristics, Uchiha. And as expected, I didn't see anything strange about him. The redhead responds that maybe he has nothing to do with Hyjin getting stronger. Chuhyun says, I don't know, he was selling something special. Do you know what a solar apple is? She says no. He then explains that the solar apple is something no one knows about, but the boy does. It's an item that drastically reduces ether consumption, and I had never even seen one in person until I went there. And the strangest thing is he made a potion using it and was selling it for a cheap price. The redhead then comments, what if the apple is real? It's impossible for it to be cheap. He tries to explain that with this, there are only 2 options. First, he doesn't know the real value of a solar apple. Or, she completes, he's a person without any greed. She gets up and says, you know what? I need some fresh air, I'll go see him. The guy asks if she wants him to prepare a car. She says, what? I'm not the boss of the company. He says she is. However, she responds that he is in an esteemed position. Chagwei and the master of the Eternal Guild. Back in the Forest of Abundance, Jia feels a bit chilly, but he brought a lighter. Remembering that after the barrier fell, he didn't see anything much different. Of course, he still hasn't fully explored. There's an area that seems extremely dangerous. He can feel it. And for now, he's not keen on putting himself in danger. So he decides to return. At that moment, the little beetles appear again carrying some things. Confused, he says, it's you guys again. What are you carrying? A chasing flower. Chiva asks, is this for me? The little beetles happily nod yes. He notices that one of them is a bit larger than the others and is always at the front. He says, you're different. Are you the leader? They don't really respond. Our boy asks, did you come from that scary place? At that moment, a mission appears. The Pterodrone requests your help to rescue their queen. Do you accept the mission to rescue the queen? So these seeds from the Mist Hunter flower are a common request? Jiha muses. Since you protected the forest, I'll see what I can do. I also fear that place, but I'll see what I can do. The little beetles are all cute and eager. However, for this, he will have to prepare a few things. So they plan to do it tomorrow. The next day, he has made healing potions, poison resistance potions, and a lot of food rations. Everyone is prepared. With everyone buffed up, he says, let's go rescue the queen. As he approaches, he sees it. The thing exuding the purple aura is the nest of the demonic ants. It's at least 3 meters high. No more delays, the battle is about to begin. The fight is intense. Wow, the protagonist is impressed. The Pterodrone are winning more easily than last time. but the poison is still hurting them. The system then says he has the right to use a power once to help them. He can bring the flying demonic ants to the ground with one slap, but it will cost 3 essences. Our boy is confused. 1 slap, and I can only use it once? What am I supposed to do with that? Then he sees at the top of the nest a winged ant appears. It's a messenger. The system warns him that if this ant gets away, it will bring back the main army. He looks at his hand and wonders, so I can stop her message with a slap. Let's see. He activates the ability, and just as the little ant is flying, she sees the massive hand coming. Man, it was a slap indeed. I thought it was some power, but it was the protagonist himself. The next chapter starts with Huiyan visiting our boy's shop. In front, she thinks, this is the place that sells the solar apple. From the outside, it looks like any other shop. But who knows what secrets are hidden here? Especially since she was informed that Heejin managed to hunt that creature after visiting this place. So I'll enter and find out if, but she notices it's closed, but the sign says it's open. She wonders if he went to the bathroom. She asks the laughing guy nearby, don't they open today? The guy responds, I'm not sure. They haven't opened since yesterday, actually. The young man who runs this place seems to have something going on. She asks the guy, why isn't he opening frequently? The guy responds that young people today aren't like they used to be. No professionalism. She thinks, wait, is this change recent? It seems that this Uchiha is hiding something. Back with our boy, he's impressed with the slap he gave. The other ants are sweating. Meanwhile, the beetles are now motivated. They charge forward as the ants flee, crying. A little later, the beetles are celebrating at his feet. However, he asks, aren't you going to rescue your queen? When he looks, some little beetles are already bringing her on a stretcher. The queen warrior is all battered. She tries to get up to talk to Jiha. He tells her not to strain herself. You've done enough. You can rest. The system then says, the Queen of the Terradrones wants to form a sworn alliance with you. If you accept, you will be sponsored by the Terradrones and receive various items. It also says that Jiha will have to fulfill their requests. Our boy says there's nothing to think about. Of course, I'll accept. After all, they can help each other. The system then says, you and the Terradrone are now allies. You can now sponsor them more directly. The little general from before then evolves into a Terradrone warrior. Our boy, impressed, says, wow, now he really looks like a general. He calls the squad and they bring a bunch of stuff to him. Jiha, embarrassed, sees it again. He says he doesn't need all this. I'd be happy with just 10 essences and a little aether. He wonders what those seeds they gave him are. Wild grape seed and tree fruit seed. While our boy says he'll just plant them and wait to see what grows. He finds it strange that a tree grows a fruit. How's that possible? He thinks, well, whatever. The forest will take care of it. The plan now is to build a new cabin. The next day in some other dungeon, the guys are talking. Are you sure the Ant Queen is here, Humi? He responds, of course she is. We'll make a lot of money if we steal her nest. But another guy says, hey, wait a minute, what's that? The quest is already completed? Humi says, what are you talking about, you fool? We just got here. When they look, the nest is empty. The guy in the back says, huh, did someone from another region clear it out? The knight says, you don't know that once a dungeon is cleared, it doesn't open again like this. The guy thinks, damn, how did this happen to us? The guy at the front says to the other, man, I don't know what happened, but it looks like there was an attack. I didn't see any ants at all when the guy said. The knight replied, that's impossible, man. Look around, there has to be some trace of them. Then one of them said, Young, take a look at the ground. Young asked, the ground? Well, we'll look at that handprint. They wondered, who could have done this? One of the guys questioned, isn't this the shape of a palm? Is this the work of a giant? Another guy said, man, but at this size, it must be a creature of at least destruction level. One of them started running, shouting, let's get out of here. One of them told the group, do you think we have any chance against a creature that single-handedly wiped out the entire ant nest? If we don't retreat now, we'll die without even knowing what happened. Let's get back to the association. We then see some guys in an office examining the protagonist's palm mark. The important group's successor, Kyungsuk, said, this was at the ant nest, right? If anything else happens, let me know. The guy was just thinking, this palm isn't from an ordinary monster, and it's too big to be an evolution of some other species. It's some creature we don't know about. Could something above destruction rank have appeared? Looking out the window, he thought, I just hope the terrible thing doesn't happen again. We then see our protagonist in Area 5 of the city. He was waiting there until a girl came running and shouting, Jie. She looked like a sister version. Could this be the case? Oops, she fell to the ground like a klutz. Picks him up, saying it's all okay, the book is safe. He says, that's not what I'm worried about, girl. This crazy-headed girl is Sunyoung, the only origami hunter in Korea. She says, it's been a while since I left the house. I forgot how to walk. Clearly, she's a book addict. And that's how she and the protagonist became best friends. He hands her the package, saying, have you had breakfast? Jumi asked me to give this to you. She thanks him and gives him a little book. Our boy asks, why? She says she went to a bookstore and the seller was sad, saying everyone who took this book always returned it. So she bought it and brought it to him. Our protagonist says, a book that everyone returns is kind of scary, isn't it? When he looks at it, he already sees it has mana, an aura there. And the system gives a notification. You have acquired the Infinite Spell Book. To write a spell in this book, you need the feather of the Thunderbird and ink. Our boy asks, are you sure the guy didn't want this book? She says yes, there's nothing written in it, and he only used it as decoration. She tried to write something, but it didn't work. The protagonist thinks a book with nothing written in it must have something to do with this notification just now. And she probably didn't get the notification since she's giving it to him like this. She says sorry if you don't want it. He says, no, I like it, I'll keep it. I'll use it wisely. Back at the shop, he tries to write with a pencil, but it doesn't work. He knows he'll need that Thunderbird feather. The system gives information. Thunderbird, a colossal and extremely rare creature. With a wingspan of 25 meters, our boy thinks, I'll have to get that. Not to mention it's rare. How is he going to locate such a thing? He thinks, I'll be another person who uses this as decoration. However, when he touches the book, he receives the good penmanship trait and an ancient magic skill. He stares at his own hand thinking, what? Out of nowhere again. But he didn't feel any different. But getting this skill now isn't a coincidence. He grabs a piece of paper that was nearby and manages to write about the bird. He even levels up his penmanship skill. However, even with that, you can't write in the book. But he wrote there, 25-meter bird, giant bird, very difficult to capture. The big feature of the skill is that his handwriting got a lot prettier, at least. But then he feels something happening nearby. He runs outside and a gate opens in front of the shop. Difficulty, 0. Target, Thunderbird feather. Time limit, 1 hour. He thinks, wait, what? It goes straight to the bird's nest. Could this be an effect of the good penmanship skill? The aura seems dangerous, but it's rank 0, so it shouldn't be a problem. Right, well, let's go. He enters and immediately sees a waterfall, thinking it really did let him in. Jiha asks, is this the habitat of the tree? It doesn't seem like it can accommodate a giant bird. But then the bird appears. It flaps its wings above him and he goes flying. Jihad exclaims, how am I supposed to hunt that? It's as big as a house. However, some feathers start falling. The bird flies away, seemingly saying, use your junk well. He wonders, wait, it's leaving? He picks up a feather, already acquiring the Thunderbird feather. He thinks, how could this be so easy? With the feathers now in hand, he just needs the ink. He smiles, already having an idea. He calls the Terradrones to bring some green herb extract. He thanks his little friends and thinks that now the preparations are complete. He's ready to solve the mystery of the infinite spellbook. Standing there, ready to write, he thinks, I wonder what kind of magic is in this book. Well, I'll find out for myself. He touches the feather to the book and a lot of magical stuff starts happening. He begins floating and the magic spreads throughout the forest. When he gets up, he recognizes it immediately. He thinks these are runic words, something he had seen in a book a long time ago. The legend of an ancient tree that taught a tribe 4 types of magic: creation, harmony, change, and destruction. However, it was extremely difficult to control these magical powers until they discovered the runic words on an expedition. Upon researching, he understands. So the ancient tree of the world taught that tribe the 4 main magical powers. The comprehension was very difficult, so they were divided into runic words. However, he had never heard of these runic words in his life. He wonders if maybe there's some way to use them with this book. Staring at the tree, he sees that runes appear on the pages when you use this book. He questions why they were engraved on the tree and not in the book. He remembers that this is the tree he watered when he first arrived here. But he's sure it's impossible that this small tree is the world tree. He thinks to himself, I don't know when these runes will disappear, so it's better to write them down. But will something happen just by putting these symbols in the book? Shida feels something strange. Even though it's the first time he's seen these runes, he kind of understands their meaning. And what is engraved on the tree says, destruction, the fire will set everything ablaze. The kid is a bit crazy as he reads this and writes it in the book. The system then says, scroll of change, destruction. Increases the destructive power of a magical rune. He's overjoyed. Wow, so if I write the runes, they turn into scrolls to use. Well, if that's the case, just tear it out, right? He cuts it, and it turns into a scroll. He says he's going to write about 99 more of these. Then he realizes, the page he tore out has regenerated. That's why it's called an infinite spellbook. Staring at the book, he knows. He can write as much as he wants. All he needs is ink, which isn't even that hard to get. The only problem is he doesn't know exactly how the scroll works. Increase the destruction and power of a magical rune is all it says. Since he doesn't have any magic, he can't test it. They'll need a mage to make it work. Oh, look who's already in the shop. Come here, you sly one, I'm going to use you for this scroll. She asked our boy, are you Hunter Jia? He replies that he is. She runs up to him. Finally, we meet. Jiha is startled as she shouts in his face. You're hard to find, aren't you? Do you know how many times I've come to this shop just to find you? Our protagonist thinks this one is tough. He apologizes, saying it's due to personal circumstances that I've had to close frequently. Looking him in the eye, she thinks, just as Chuhyun said, he doesn't seem special at all. Our boy wonders, why is she staring at me so coldly? But she thinks to herself, whatever. My purpose here isn't him, but the items he sells. She apologizes and says she understands his circumstances. But anyway, sorry for the late introduction, but she is the leader of the Eternal Flame Guild, Huiyin, and she heard he sells special items in his shop. He agrees and she starts to say something, but he interrupts. You're talking about the solar apple, aren't you? Or are you looking for the winter strawberry? She says that's right, but he continues. Those items are the most famous here in the shop these days. Wait a moment, since you've come here several times without success, I'll give you some things. She thinks, is he really that easy to get things from? She's very confused, but our boy says, hey customer, we're out of stock. She asks, what do you mean? Our boy remembers that he got so focused on playing with the pterodrones and writing runes in the book that he forgot to make potions. So he tells her, if you come back tomorrow, I'll prepare them for you. Sorry again. She thinks to herself, yeah, I can't even say anything. Clearly, he's sad. Is he kind or stupid? Or both? She turns to leave, saying, well, nothing to do then, since you have nothing to sell. Sadly, she goes away thinking to herself, I'll come back tomorrow. I just wanted to go to the dungeon. But then our boy says, wait a moment. You said you're the leader of the Eternal Flame Guild, right? Are you a fire mage? Yes, why? Jiga hands her the scroll and says, ah, great, then test this out. I'm sure it'll make an explosive meteor bomb. She looks at it and asks, what's this? A scroll? The protagonist responds, yes, it's a fire scroll I made yesterday for testing. I'm giving it to you so I don't feel bad for letting you leave empty-handed. She says, since it's from you, I won't refuse. She activates it, and the shop explodes with a fiery message. The flames will set everything ablaze. She says she likes that phrase and will see him tomorrow. He replies, ah, okay, my customer. See you soon. But he notices something. The staff on her back is glowing much more than when she entered. We then see her in the spider dungeon. They've just defeated the sentinel spider and are marching forward. Our redhead is throwing fireballs. However, she finds it strange. Her fire powers are much stronger. With one hit, the creatures fall dead. Not to mention, the rune on her staff won't stop glowing. But she gets a bit distracted and almost gets hit by a purple venom. She manages to dodge. The guy next to her asks, are you okay, leader? She says she's fine. She just finds it strange that there are many more spiders than expected. The guy apologizes again, saying that in forest dungeons there are many variables. But if she wants, they can go back and reorganize. She says, no, forget it. We'll continue forward no matter what. But the cautious mate says, it's better we go back. You don't need to push yourself so hard. But the warrior is on fire today. She says, don't worry. I feel like I can beat anything. She starts creating summoning circles. Watch out, here comes the fire on all the spiders. Everything begins to burn. The guys are impressed, saying, what's going on, leader? When did you level up so much? You killed everyone by yourself. She's questioning herself. Wait, something strange. I've never had this much power. Could it be that scroll from that sly guy? Back at the protagonist's shop, he's finished the production. Phew, this should be enough, right? He prepared a bunch of solar potions and some cold resistance potions. Now just waiting for Huiyan, who said she would come in the morning. He looks back. Ah, welcome Huiyan. I made the potions you asked for. But in his thoughts, he notices she's accompanied. Huiyan says, Hunter Uchiha, can we buy the potions later and have a little chat? Suddenly, she throws down the suitcase full of money. Whoa, what's this, Huiyan? She responds, what do you think it is? Money. Are you the type who doesn't care about money? Now I understand why you sell these potions at such a low price. He says that's not the case. Everyone likes money, but he feels awkward about her giving so much money. She explains it's because of the scroll he gave her yesterday. It has an extremely strong effect. It's definitely something above S grade. She says the scroll is so powerful, it's almost theft for her to take it without paying. And besides, if she didn't give something in return, she wouldn't feel right. He says he understands, but in his thoughts, he's impressed. As he expected, the infinite spell book is really amazing. She says if he doesn't want cash, he can just give his bank account details. But our protagonist is very kind and courteous. He says he's very grateful, but doesn't have the right to accept the money. She asks, what do you mean? He says, as I told you, the scroll was an apology for making you wait, and I'm not honorable enough to take all this money. He thinks, whatever, I just wanted to give her the scroll as a test. She says, Jiha, don't you know? In an instant, a good person can become a fool. What do you think happens if a chicken gives golden eggs to everyone for free? What will happen to those people? Our boy responds, everyone will get rich. Huiyan replies, of course not. Once this spreads to the public, the chicken will become everyone's target. That's why your ability is amazing but extremely dangerous right now. Do you understand? The protagonist replies, I understand. Huiyan says, good if you understand. I want to make you an offer. Jiha, you want to join the Eternal Flame Guild? Out of the blue, yes. She says, I know my introduction was a bit negative when I first came here, but it was only because I was worried about you. Our guild is extremely ethical and never harms people, and the reason I brought the money was to prove that we can reward you for your abilities. Jiha says, but the Eternal Flame is already a very well-known guild. You didn't need to do all this to prove yourself. She says she wanted to show that such a famous guild really likes him. Besides, we have many mages in our guild. We also have many alchemists. Chuhyun, the chief alchemist, speaks up in a distorted voice, I love Eternal Flame. Huiyan continues, mentioning their numerous production facilities. You would have the opportunity to conduct extensive research. Your salary and benefits would be as high as you desire. You even have the authority of a chief or higher. Jiha, visibly torn, listens as she continues, join our guild, Jiha. Jia interrupts, I appreciate all your kindness. Huiyin, initially celebrating, then realizes something. Wait, you only accept kindness? You don't want to join? But why? Our terms are so generous. He explains, as I said, it's a bit too much for me. I'm sure there are people more qualified than me to join the guild. Huiyin insists, please, you're more than capable. The guy behind her says, all right, leader, let's calm down. She responds, no, he's belittling himself too much. He can't be like this. Jihad explains, originally I was a hunter with the lowest rank without any attributes. The reason I can make these special items isn't due to my abilities. It's because of luck and my friends like the beetles and my friend who gave me the book. Everything that happened to me was because of fortune and my friends. My abilities might disappear one day. That's why I don't have the confidence to accept this offer. I don't know how long I can keep doing this. Besides, I'm very attached to this place to leave just like that. She is confused, but the guy behind her speaks. Leader, it seems changing his mind won't be easy. Let's respect his wishes. She remains puzzled. Jiha says, of course, thanks to your advice, I will be more careful. I will start charging a little more for the potions. She quickly responds, don't tell anyone it was me who made you charge more. She sighs, well, I don't like this. It feels like being rejected in a relationship, but I have no choice. If you ever need help or get into any danger, just call me. Jia reassures her, it's okay. If any danger approaches, this guy here will alert me. He points to a small bell plant which makes a sound when danger is near. The story then transitions to the post-gate world, illustrating how difficult it is to live in nature. Seas, beaches, forests, and mountains are overrun by monsters, but the Forest of Dreams is a place Jiha can enjoy. This is truly calming. The sea is the best place for a headache, he says, marveling at the environment. I thought my dream would only have forests, but there's even a sea here. This place feels like paradise on earth. The plan was to spend more time in the shop than the forest, but this morning has exhausted him. Clearly, I'm not the best shopkeeper. Whatever, I'll take some time to recover, eat a lot, and read a lot of books. I'm tired of all this, he reflects, spending some alone time in the forest, reading until he falls asleep. Little does he know, unexpected visitors are on their way. 2 hours earlier, Gio was reading happily, thinking it was peaceful. Hearing the sound of the sea is extremely rare nowadays because the coasts are overrun by monsters. Being in a cave like this feels like a blessing. He thought it would be nice to bring his friends here when he heard something next to him. A cat's meow? He went to check without fear. The danger plant didn't make any noise, so it must be safe. He noticed a beetle flying in that direction. Gio thought, why is it going there? When he arrived, he found Actos, a creature too big to be a cat, but not large enough to be a tiger. Clearly, he was injured. Gio wondered if he should offer help. The pterodrome came up and tapped his shoulder. He turned to see, and the pterodromes brought some fish. These beetles work at lightning speed, he thought, happy with their help. He petted the creature, feeling content. In the present, Actos had eaten the fish and taken a potion, finally stopping trembling. Gio was curious, wondering, I didn't expect animals in this forest. Where did you come from? He asked the cat, who meowed in response. He apologized for waking it and continued petting it. He thought about a name since Actos didn't fit. Since it resembled a tiger, he decided to call it Biam, which means tiger in Korean. Jiga said, if you don't have a place to go, come with me. He wondered, can I take it to the shop? When Huiyin arrived at the shop, she was startled. What's that? He said, this is Biam. Huiyin exclaimed, no, it's a tiger. Our boy is confused. I didn't imagine she would be scared. Hyjin brings the coffee and our boy says, you're giving this to me for free? But at that moment, she had already stepped back because the kitten was approaching. Our protagonist apologizes, he's going to live here with me from now on. I didn't think you would be afraid. However, he notices that Biam is standing still, smiling. He wants you to pet him. Hyjin approaches awkwardly and pets him, thinking he's soft and fluffy. It seems like he's only a tiger in name, she says. Hyjin continues, I heard you gave away some scrolls for free. Everyone on the internet is talking about it. He replies, oh right, it was for the leader of the Eternal Flame Guild. Jin thinks, he gave away scrolls worth more than 100 million for free. Does he have no ambition? Or is he just stubborn? It's clear he has been living like this for a long time, not calculating things too much without greed. He tries to make others feel comfortable. Is that why I always want to come back to the shop? Biam is there, biting at Jiha's clothes. At that moment, the danger plant suddenly starts shaking. He thinks, what? Suddenly? Could it be? A citywide alert comes. Level 4 catastrophe warning. All residents in the vicinity must evacuate immediately. Hyjin turns to him, saying they need to evacuate urgently. Outside, tanks have arrived, ordering everyone to evacuate. Our boy is there with his white cat in the crowd. A level 4 catastrophe is very dangerous. Jiha knows they will need many strong hunters. He just hopes they can handle it. Sometime later, they arrive at the bunker. The ground is already shaking. Everyone there is crying. Jiha thinks to himself, is it too early to feel safe? He pets Biam, who is also scared. I hope it's nothing, he thinks. Above, the catastrophe is ongoing. This happens when hunters enter a dungeon and fail. When a mission fails in a lower level dungeon, it's not very difficult. But it's a completely different story when a level 4 or higher dungeon fails. The government has a plan to evacuate all civilians within a 20 kilometers area. Snipers are positioned everywhere, calling all hunters to be ready. Man, this is the first functioning government I've seen, Jia thinks. In front of everyone, Haijin announces, they're coming. The first things to appear are giant skeletons. The army is here. Missiles, torpedoes, explosions. Look at that, the military is actually doing something. Himzio, analyzing, recognizes it must have been a dungeon with weak monsters. But with the amount of combat power they have, it shouldn't be too difficult. He tells the army to shoot only those coming out of the gate, while they focus on the ones escaping. Unless there's another variable, we'll win. Then a giant hand appears. He recognizes it immediately. A monstrous level creature. He changes the plan instantly. Focus everyone on that giant beast. Missiles, bombs, bullets. The torpedo hits its mouth and explodes. It's still intact. The creature glares at everyone. Dangerous enemies must be killed. It charges forward. Himzio yells for everyone to dodge. Friend, you better dodge. You're about to get crushed. A massive bait. The creature passes over them, heading towards the shelter. But Haijin jumps in the way. Who allowed you to go to the shelter? Using her sword Tumult. Will it work, she wonders. Huiyan is also there. She has the scroll. She blasts it with a laser, but the creature doesn't even turn around. It keeps moving straight. It punches her in the gut. Man, you're in trouble. Huiyan, the crazy mage, shouts, don't chase it. If you don't defend, who will save the people? The creature faces Jiha and says, I found you, our enemy. Jiha thinks, wait, the barrier was broken so easily. This means they're not winning outside. But his legs are paralyzed. He tries to move, but he can't. When he finally does, the creature is about to grab him. But Biom tugs him back and unleashes an ice barrage, standing in front of Jiha, staring down the creature. The creature trembles. What? Are you scared? In its mind, the creature hears Biom saying, you are an inferior beast. Leave now. Seeing from behind, Haijin and Huiyan realize it has stopped. We need to take this chance. Fires a massive shot of fire, enveloping her sword in flames, slicing through the beast. The creature is now charred. She falls to the ground, exhausted. Huiyan asks, is it over? Haijin replies, no, I feel a massive amount of ether inside. The kitten, now all cute in Gio's arms. Sometime later, ambulances are taking away the injured. Haijin feels the concentration of ether has disappeared. Looking at Biom, she thinks, did that come from him? Our boy is now at home after taking a bath, thinking about the crazy day. Petting Bion, he thinks he seems so terrifying at that moment, but now he's so calm. The protagonist keeps thinking about the creature and decides to write about it, just to have it recorded. Monstrous creature, 15 meters tall, ugly as hell, and very strong. There's a website that records all monsters, but no one knows how Keto manages to register new ones. However, strangely, when our boy wrote in the book, it also got added to the wiki. Youngsuk is confused. What? How are these entries being updated? But our boy is just calmly recording everything. The scene then shifts to a hunter's meeting. They are discussing the monster, and especially the fact that they think it wasn't one of their hunters who killed it. Nobody knows why the creature got stuck after breaking the wall. Could it have been one of the humans inside? They wonder, but that doesn't make sense. How could a human have so much power? Youngsuk says, did you see that the wiki was updated for the first time in a long while? Something is coming. Among us, there's something powerful enough to scare even that creature. Haijin speculates, either the person who scared it was inside, or it's a hunter with an ability we don't know about yet. Huiyan explains that several people present reported hearing a cat scream when the creature froze. Youngsuk dismisses it. It doesn't matter. That's not important. Huiyan responds, maybe. But inside was the potion shop owner with his snow leopard, and since the creature froze, the three of them head to our protagonist's shop. He greets them. Hi, how are you? They barged in without a word, all three of them slamming the table. Where's the cat? We want to see it. Biom will get scared with you acting so desperate, Jia says. Biom, who was nearby, jumps on the table and stretches. The three of them look at him all confused. Huiyan picks him up and asks, hey, is this the cat that caused that ether wave? He looks like a normal cat. Jia warns her it's better not to hold him like that, but she doesn't care and grabs him, saying she doesn't feel any ether coming from him. Impossible for him to have so much ether to cause such an explosion without it being detectable. Biom bites her arm. Jia says, I warned you. You need to be careful with him. Haijin adds, I heard you were in the shelter when the explosion happened. Many people said they heard a cat sound before the creature froze. Our protagonist responds, crazy, isn't it? Youngsuk adjusts his glasses. I think they're just false rumors. Poor Youngsuk looking at Huiyan and thinking, I want to recruit this guy for our guild, but it's not the right time. Little does he know she's already been rejected. As they leave, Huiyan says, aren't you going to ask to join the guild? I wanted to see you get rejected. Meanwhile, Haijin gives him a little smile, trying to seduce our boy, huh? She says, I'll be back. He replies, anytime. But our boy isn't interested in that. Sometime later, he's relaxing in the forest, reading a book about the continent of Gehenna, a place where various species live together with a great tree. The great tree created creatures considered the gods of nature to protect Yahello. One of the descriptions mentioned a creature that looked like a cat with white fur and black spots. Staring at Jia thinks, wait, is he a god of nature? But this cat is so small, he doesn't seem like a god. However, considering how he stopped that creature, it might make sense. It's not a coincidence. As they said, there was an ether explosion. Jia continues thinking, it was probably who did that. Does this prove he's a god of nature? Maybe then the tree in my dream really is. Everything starts to make sense. It's as if the tree is giving him a task. Everything began when he received the worker class. Helping the Terra drones, saving all seem to be part of a bigger plan. At that moment, the book next to him glows. And the most unusual thing is that in the class, it's written, Worker of XXX. What does this mean? Suddenly, it's like a flashbang from CS, blinding him. In the next chapter, we see a girl in an isolated room watching TV. A news report is talking about bombing somewhere. Back to the protagonist, he's staring at the trees saying, it was you, wasn't it? Who brought me to this forest of dreams? I have no idea why you gave me such an important task, but there must be a reason, so I'll do my best to help you. At that moment, a purple tornado appears beside him and something begins to form. He hears a voice saying, curse everything that breathes, bring death to all living beings. A skeleton appears. No, not just one, a whole horde of skeletons emerges in his forest. He recognizes the creature as an ancient lich, a creature at terror level. Oh my god, look at the size. This is a disaster. He thinks it's almost cute being so small. The lich commands, kneel before the master. The system then notifies him, the ancient lich is corrupting the nearby lands and will soon reach yours. Although an immediate counterattack is difficult, you want to try to reduce its influence. Our boy obviously agrees. Below, the lich is calling everyone. What's bizarre now is imagining if this cat is the size of a normal one. If the lich, which should be much bigger, is tiny, how big is this cat really? The lich is marching with his minions. Our boy just wants to give a slap, but that's not an option. He remembers that liches don't die unless you destroy their life source, and the system gives him that exact mission. Plus, he will also need to purify the nearby lands that the lich has corrupted. Far away, he sees a little castle and recognizes it. He's seen it somewhere before. It's the banner of the kingdom of Istran. Could these skeletons the lich is controlling be the people from there? He decides not to dwell on it. The important thing now is to reclaim this place, and since he can't intervene directly, he will have to use the army. He calls the Terra drones. The problem is that the only one who can fly is his warrior. Everyone else is stuck because there's a big rock in the way. Our boy has two options. He can either spend an essence to remove the rock, or let the Terra drones handle it. Since he's in a hurry, he spends the essence. Tell them to go one-on-one, Jiha says. The duel begins and our boy watches the battle. Now that they're strengthened, they really look like a troop. The lich tries to send more soldiers, but it's not working. He raises his staff to cast a spell. The spell was an area effect, but just as he's about to strike the staff on the ground to activate it, the Terra drone warrior arrives and stops him. Our boy sighs in relief. The blessing came at the perfect time. They snatch the staff from the lich's hand and throw him to the ground. He's getting pulverized. There's only gravel left of him. But the lich is confident. No matter. It's just an undead body. However, Jia realizes that he had already sent someone to find the lich's life source, but the Terra drone who found it isn't strong enough to destroy it. Because of this, Jia has to spend 5 essences to evolve him into a warrior. To take advantage of the lich being in pieces, he spends it. The creature begins to evolve, gaining armor and all. I thought he had evolved the one in the chest, but he evolved the big one, making it even stronger. The lich, reconstructing itself, screams desperately to stop. But there's no time. The Terra drone headbutts the chest, disintegrating the lich. Our boy, all happy, celebrates. We won. The troop brings several little chests. It's funny because the chests are small in their hands, but probably gigantic in real life. Jia feels a bit embarrassed and thanks them. The little creatures are also embarrassed. The strongest Terra drone brings a chest, which when placed before him returns to its real size. Our boy greedily opens it. Inside, there's the sword of the Estran Rain. Unique rarity, +5 to mentality and charisma of the conqueror. Really, I'm just a worker. I don't have any attack stats. He thinks he would like to return it to the rightful owner, but looking at the destroyed castle, he imagines the owner is long dead. So he stores it in his glitchy backpack, pulls out his little spade, and begins fixing the soil of the region. He's dumping cursed dirt into a bucket to purify it when one of the Terra drones suggests he write a scroll using the ink. Jiha replies, "There's no rune, my friend." Just then, a rune appears on the tree. What a coincidence. Well, if that's the case, let's write it. Purification rune restores land to its original state. BM jumps on him and he plays with him, while the Terra drone uses the scroll and brings it to him. Scroll of Harmony cleanses any corrupted land. But suddenly, all the Terra drones disappear. The scene shifts to a completely different place where someone says, "This is our land, death to all who destroy our peace." The people there cover their ears, wondering where the sound is coming from. Suddenly, a star shines in the sky, and the lich appears with his army, announcing, "This land has now been given to us. However, another portal opens next to the lich and out comes a gigantic figure. The lich glares, curse race of the tree. The Pterodrone smashes most of them. The lich tries to retaliate with magic, but now that he's evolved, he's much more resilient. The lich stands no chance and is easily pulverized. The scene returns to Jiha's shop when Sun Young rushes in, grabs the remote, and turns on the TV, shouting, "Watch!" The news shows a report on the battle against the lich. The land that was purple and cursed is suddenly purified. Officials say this means the lich has been eliminated. Jiha wonders, what's happening? On TV, he sees the Pterodrone flying in the sky. Everyone is confused about how such a disaster disappeared so suddenly. Jiha, back at the shop, wonders, why was the Pterodrone there? Hyung-sik at the company recognizes it wasn't a destruction-level disaster. His colleague confirms, yes, they were mythical monsters. Everyone is confused, not knowing what's happening. Jiha returns to the world of the tree and speaks urgently to the Pterodrone. Hey, we need to have a chat. The creatures are all embarrassed. Jiha says, you didn't do anything wrong, so don't worry. But I want to know, were you the ones who used the scroll? And did you appear on Jury Island? The creatures don't respond and run off, bringing a bunch of rewards. Jiha asks, hey, are you trying to silence me with this? I just want to know if you appeared on Jury Island. The creatures, all embarrassed, say nothing. Jiha pets them. I'm not scolding you. I just want to be sure it was you. But anyway, good job. They leave 10 ethers and 10 essences. Jiha, as always, thinks it's too much. Just that giant stone from the ancient lich is worth millions of dollars. Do you want to play with this? Jiha hands it over. All right then. The creature starts munching the whole stone. Jiha understands immediately. He's using it as an energy source. Beyond, all happy. Well, what can you do? Creatures of the gods are incomprehensible. Now that Jiha has 15 essences, it's time to boost his stats a bit. He advances to 9 in strength and 8 in endurance. Will our boy become a fighter? He wonders, am I stronger? Not sure. However, the reason for getting stronger is to make planting easier. He doesn't want to become obsessed with power. He's already content here. Back at the shop, Jiha receives an invitation to participate in a dungeon. But it's different. Most things have already been cleared out. They call hunters to pick up whatever's left. Around the fountain, everyone going to collect items has gathered. Strangely, there are a lot of people. A man named Mr. Wong who approaches the protagonist, saying he's never seen such a large group for item collection. The dungeon must be huge. Who knows, we might find something really good. He pulls Jiha along, who says, I think all the good stuff has already been taken, right? The man replies, of course not. Sometimes hunters are lazy and leave good things behind. At that moment, look who comes, all graceful, the beautiful armored lady. She has eyes for someone else though. When she sees our boy, she comes right up to him. Are you here to collect items? He says yes, he received a call that they needed help. Around them, everyone is wondering, who is that guy? Why did she talk to him? Meanwhile, Heijin is worried because it could be dangerous. Gracefully, she offers to protect him. She says if he stays by her side, it will be much safer and easier. Jiha is a bit confused as many guys start crowding around her. Heijin, come with me. Come here, come there. But she says she doesn't want any of that and looks at Jiha. Shall we go? He replies, all right then. The two head inside. She explains that such large dungeons usually have very rare plants. Jiha says he's glad he can recognize good plants. Most people don't know what to pick. At that moment, something trembles inside his backpack, and when he opens it, Biome's there sleeping. Heijin sees him all cute, tries to pet him, but gets a bite on the hand. Jiha explains he doesn't like being petted when he's being carried. She's a bit upset, but they continue walking. She then notices that the creature is growing a lot day by day. He must be eating very well, right, Jiha? Yes, that's right. Not going to mention he ate $1 billion worth of stones. Walking through the forest, she asks if he saw the news about the mystical creature and the monster called Pterodrone, and also about the demonic ant nets with a giant handprint the size of a house. Jiha remembers slapping it. That can't be it, right? But starts to wonder, is it really like that? Is the world inside the forest a miniature of the outside world? At that moment, Biom gets into an attack stance and Heijin tells him to step back. In front of them, many trees and plants with big mouths start appearing. Jiha asks if Heijin is okay, but she says this is where the person she's looking for disappeared. It's the same scene. And then we learn the person who disappeared was Korea's rank 1. That means these creatures are at least rank 5. She drinks one of Jiha's potions and says, Jiha, run out of the dungeon as soon as they attack. I'll try to hold them here. Jiha knows it's impossible for her to hold them all off. It's a bunch of extremely high-level monsters. But he notices that Biom is starting to exude an aura. Is he charging ahead alone? Strangely, the monsters are running away from him. Biom grabs a hand, bites it, and tears off a piece. The plants are all running for their lives. Heijin is utterly confused, not understanding what happened. Biom returns calmly with something in his mouth. Jiha says, what's that? Do you want me to plant it? Biom nods. Meanwhile, Heijin is thinking about the great trap that killed the rank 1 fleeing. I've never seen anything like this. But Jiha says they have another problem at the moment. In one direction of the forest, everything is purple. Heijin tells Jiha that he should go back. And you? She said she finally found a trace of him. She can't go back now. Jiga draws his position and says, "Then we'll go together. Even if it's dangerous, she'll protect them, right?" She says yes, but she's lying, right? In the end, it will be BM who protects them. Walking through the forest, she points to a cave and asks, "Do you see that? All the light is coming from that place." Jiha agrees and they decide to enter. At the entrance, there are traces of blood and large handprints. Someone tried to escape but didn't fare well. At that moment, Hyjin recognizes the armor and sword of the rank 1 guy, but it's all shattered and bloodied. She hugs it, already in tears, thinking he's passed away. Jiha tries to comfort her, saying if he had really been killed here, his skeleton would be here. Probably he dropped it and went somewhere else. Do you really think so? Yes. Just then, BM brings a large green apple in his mouth. Actually, it's a symbiotic egg. He says he's heard about it but isn't sure what it does. When they get out, he'll take a look. But BM gives him a little nip on the arm, wanting affection. Jiga says that these are excellent signs and that the person is probably alive. She agrees that must be the case. Let's go back. They're quite optimistic. But if I found destroyed and bloodied armor, I'd assume the worst. Hyjin is smiling, saying he brings her a lot of luck, making Jiha a bit embarrassed. This situation is peculiar, isn't it? She tells him to call if he ever needs help, and he agrees. BM tries to swipe at her, but she just hugs him and pets him. Back at the shop, Jihad is looking up the symbiotic egg. He searches through books but finds nothing. So he decides to go to the world of the forest to see if he can discover anything. When he arrives, the Terradrones approach and indicate they want help. Jia hands them the egg. The creatures take it to their queen, who pets it gently. After a while, they're all climbing the tree, moving around. Suddenly, a giant moth appears. Jia recognizes it as a symbiont. It flaps its wings, scattering dust everywhere, and a message appears. A group of symbionts that were dormant have awakened. With that, the restoration of the world tree begins. Jihad is thrilled and touches the tree. As he does, the world tree bestows its blessing on him. The dormant destiny has awakened. His class changes to worker of the world tree. Jihad looks around, impressed. The place has grown much larger, and a lake seems to have appeared out of nowhere. The fruits, like the solar apple, have leveled up. He thinks with this he can make a lot more potions and earn more money. But then he stops himself. No, I'm here to help the world tree. He starts to think that perhaps restoring the tree is the purpose of all this. Could this be the goal of everything? He sees BM staring at him and asks if he's hungry. Pulls out his fishing rod, let's catch some fish for dinner. He fishes out a red trout. But when he holds the fish, it has an effect if eaten. Activates level 1 extrasensory perception for 30 minutes. Increases your reflexes by 20%. He realizes that all of his items now have more detailed descriptions. This will make selling potions much easier. He decides to run back to the shop, unaware there's a crowd outside. BM is even handing out numbered tickets for entry into the shop. A guy asks, "What's going on?" Everyone came to buy potions from this shop, didn't you hear? The potions made by that guy are much better than others. People from other states are coming here just to buy from him, and they're still cheap. Jiha's shop is packed, and he thinks that maybe this is the best way to help as many people as possible. That's why he's limited it to 3 potions per person to give everyone a chance to buy one. His book-loving friend enters the shop and shows him on her phone that the Hunter website is all about him. Jia feels a bit embarrassed. She picks up a potion and says, "Wow, it's the first time I've seen something so well detailed. Nobody knows exactly what a potion does." Jiga bluffs that he just kept asking everyone until he figured it out. She says if the effects written are true, it's much better than all others. Could she take one extra as a friend? Jiga says no, but as a friend, he'll give her the scroll of creation, a wish. Any small wish can come true. 2 uses. Jiga just hopes nothing strange happens because he hasn't seen anyone use it yet. Later, this friend went to a dungeon with her colleagues. In the midst of everything, she was hit by a creature on her back. When she fell, her group killed the creature, and she got up. Strangely, the scroll activated by itself, giving a buff to receive 70% more items for 30 minutes. But at that moment, the ground cracked. Everyone panicked, thinking they would die. But instead, they fell straight into the treasure room of that place. There, she found exactly the book she had been searching for. After gathering everything, they were leaving the place when a bunch of creatures appeared to attack them. They tried to flee, but there was no escape. She put the book over her head and prayed not to die. Suddenly, they were in a kind of desert, and everything around them had disappeared. Meanwhile, back with Jiha, the creatures that were chasing them appeared on his land. When he returned to the shop, the people who had been teleported were angrily waiting at his door. Jiha let them in to explain the situation, and she showed him the book she had found. Inside the book was a map of the continent of Gehenna. After that, everyone left. Our boy was left thinking, now I have a lot of things to do, right? I have to take care of the shop, read this book, manage everything. But there he was, petting the kitten that was feeling sleepy. He sat in the chair, still thinking, not to mention I have to make a bunch of potions before going to the garden. So he thought it would be better to first take a look at the map. Since it's a map used by the Empire's knights, its quality is quite different. Even the terrains, the names of places, the creatures, everything is written with great detail. The ancient lich that appeared came from the south, and the monster from the forest that he and Hyjin encountered came from Mount Apego. If the map were complete, he would be able to know where all the dungeons are. At this moment, a clever idea struck him. He was going to ask the pterodones if they knew anything. Woke up all lazy with the kitten, but was curious. Where are the pterodones? But the little flower that alerts about creatures was trembling, indicating a powerful creature had appeared. Our protagonist was curious. Did it appear here? Then we see the pterodones surrounding a giant cyclops. Giant, well, because to our boy, everything is tiny. The cyclops is a disaster-rank creature, first seen in China. Almost nothing is known about it besides its size and appearance. The only thing he remembers is that dozens of hunters were sent just to hunt this monster. However, in Korea, a cyclops had never been seen before. The beast was shaking all over, struggling to hit the tiny pterodones. Our protagonist asked Biam, "Aren't you going to help them, you bastard? Look at that big guy over there." Biam replied that no, they apparently didn't need help. Our protagonist found it strange not even a mission window appeared. Does this mean the pterodones can handle it? The little creatures were all shielded and brave. Our protagonist decided to write down some characteristics just to ensure things were noted. The pterodones charged forward and the cyclops tried to smash them, but they dodged, aiming straight for its eye. He concentrated some energy there. Watch out for the laser, our boy warned. The pterodones took a bit of a hit. The laser went through the entire forest, leaving it devastated. Our boy realized the power difference between them and the cyclops was significant, but the little guys gathered around a captain. Our protagonist was curious. What's their plan? They brought a mega giga big crystal and cut it all up. Our boy wondered, what are they going to do? They made all the little shields with other stones. The cyclops didn't care, concentrated on its eye again, and unleashed another laser. Our boy saw that the pterodones wouldn't do anything but stay calmly there. He smiled as the laser hit the shield, reflected, and struck the cyclops' arm, which fell devastated. It was left stump-like. He took the opportunity to write in his book, when facing a cyclops, the best strategy is to use an aether shield to reflect its laser. He wondered if people would have enough aether to do that. The cyclops, all shattered, was crying, running away, but it was over. Pterodon boom, hit its calf, hit its foot, and it fell like a fool. Our protagonist was impressed. The little guys indeed managed on their own. Proudly, they came to talk to our boy. He gave them the usual petting. You guys are awesome. Since they worked so hard, he decided to give them a reward, handing over a bunch of aether. He gave everything to the happy pterodon and received a little letter. Essence plus 10, essence plus 10, essence plus 10, received 325 essences. He wondered, why did I get so much? At her guild, Hua Yun saw that some information had been updated on the wiki. When she clicked, it said, strategy to defeat a cyclops. You need 10 essences to see this information. She said, what kind of system is this? I've never seen this before. But it doesn't matter, right? 10 essences, she can get that easily in just a few dungeons. She sees the information there about the mace, the eye attack, and the laser. She scrolls down to see the most important part, and it's another 10 essences. Man, this is cruel. Capitalism won, she thinks. Poor girl ends up banging her head. Damn, no more essence. Who's the bastard that did this? If I catch you, I'll burn you. Our boy feels a bad sensation. Someone wants to do harm to me. Then we see Hyung-suk getting out of a car and asking the guy, is there something I need to know about? The guy says no. Then why are there so many hunters here? Damn it. Oh, it's because of this thing from yesterday. Look. He says, wait, a strategy to defeat a cyclops? Yes, it costs 10 essences to see, and then another 10 essences to see the final strategy. But every hunter knows that 10 essences can help with their status. Who's going to spend 20 just to see information about defeating a creature? That's why they all gather here. I don't know who the author is, but his writing is incredible. Yeah, especially since a Cyclops dungeon never appeared here. At the meeting, the guy says it's impossible to access the wiki from any other country, so it's definitely not a foreign thing. Hyung-suk asks, is there no way to track who's receiving these essences? The guy replies, unfortunately, no. They automatically go straight to the system that helps the hunters. And strangely, just as it said in the writing, whoever reads that strategy receives a buff. Hyung-suk, not understanding a thing, says, I already have a headache. He instructs everyone in the operations group to monitor the hunters who accepted this mission and see what happens. Their safety is the priority. We then see a group form to go hunting. There are 2 hunters looking foolish and Haijin looking all beautiful and wonderful. In the other group, there are 2 more foolish ones in Haiyan, also looking beautiful. The scene changes to the Cyclops firing the big laser. The knight defends, reflects it, Haijin hits the thighs and calves, and then a meteor hits the chest. It's all chaos. At the shop, our boy is watching everything. An announcement is made. The Cyclops dungeon was easily defeated without any catastrophe. Our protagonist is impressed, saying Haijin and Haiyan are incredible. The reporter says that this strategy will be shared with all other countries at no cost. Now G is 100% sure everything he writes in the Book of Infinite Magic is sent straight to the Hunter's Wiki. If he keeps sharing everything he's doing with the Terradrone, he'll never run out of aether. At that moment, the little plant is screaming, oh no, another monster, let's go be him. I'm telling you, this guy has medicine in the drawer. When the creatures announce themselves, he falls asleep. Upon arriving, he's in the middle of the sea, and on the other side, he sees a Terradrone coming. The system alerts, The World Eater is injured and needs your help. Our boy is shocked. World Eater? What is that? Where? The Pterodrome points down. He's underground. What is this hole here? When he realizes it, water splashes on his face. BM shakes off the water and dries his leg. Don't tell me I'm standing on the World Eater. Yes, it's the giant whale. Imagine you were so big, and he is gigantic. How big is this? It doesn't even make sense. Does it fit on the planet? You're the World Eater, you rascal. He senses that it's weakened. Now he understands why he was gaining so much essence. It was always for this. Here you go, you rascal, and he throws everything inside it. Eat. However, the beast gives him a little stare, getting angry. Our boy wants to know what's happening. Starts shouting. There's a flash in the middle of the sea. The beast turns all white and both fall to the ground exhausted. A system message appears. Thanks to your help, the World Eater has returned to its original form. When he looks, it became tiny. Our boy likes it. He loves a cute creature, and he gives it a hug. The World Eater is swimming happily, and our boy thinks it was worth using the essences for this. Right, Biam? Obviously not. Biam wants everything for himself, greedy. Suddenly, our boy notices something. Oh, what's happening? He jumps and splashes water on the fools. When he looks, actually, the World Eater brought a feast. A bunch of fish, oysters, snails, and crabs. Our protagonist is amazed. Wow, you're giving me all this? The creature nods. He thanks it, and Biam starts eating. The World Eater then leaves. On the news, of course, they're already talking. Danger, urgent news. An absurdly gigantic creature appeared in the southern part of Korea. What could it be? Looking for the creature. Oh no, it's not the World Eater, it's a gigantic octopus. I thought it was our dear World Eater. It already jumped on a house. Everyone's running away in fear. The problem is that the hunters haven't arrived yet. Suddenly, someone points out, Captain, what's that? When they look, they see what's behind the poor octopus. The guys are terrified. Wait, a destruction-level creature. The octopus wants to run back to the sea, but it gets sucked in and pulled into the belly of the World Eater, gone. The whale is there in the sea, and the guys are just watching. Hyung-suk asks the guy, wait, so this giant whale is a demigod that made a contract with someone who awakened for the first time? The guy says yes, it matches the description of a demigod. Hyung-suk says they need to watch a bit more. But they mention that all the creatures that were near Korea were pushed to Japan. No one understands what's happening. It's chaos. In the library, he and Sunyam are just reading. She brought him a bunch of old books from the kingdom of Estran, hoping to find some information. Our boy thanks her. She asks if he managed to use the map, and he says, unfortunately, it only covers from the beginning of the kingdom to the part by the river. Besides, it was described by some knights of the commander, so it's not very accurate. She's confused. What do you mean it's not perfect? You see everything to know. Our protagonist is thinking, the one who saw everything was the Pterodrome who told me, but she can't know that. However, he adds, just adding the southern area of the Tails Sea will complete the Estran Kingdom map. At least they will know everything around the region. Sumyoung is curious. Why are you so keen on restoring the map? It seems too focused to be just a hobby. He says he feels that it will help someone. He's sure the guy Mina is looking for, Han Sung-yuk, is alive somewhere on the continent of Urena. He's got unshakable faith. He found the guy's armor and sword completely destroyed, which means he's alive. But our boy is confident with the World Tree's ability. He's sure he'll find him. Sunyov asks curiously, are you trying to help a good friend? Who is she? Tell me. Our boy says it's not like that. She says, I see. Well, I'm going to sleep because I have to wake up early tomorrow. Our boy says, all right then, goodbye, my warrior. But before she leaves, he reminds her to pick up the potion in the morning since they're doing Dungeon Run 3. She agrees, thanks him, and leaves. Our boy is happy with her visit as she helped him gather more information. He creates a new scroll in the book, a scroll of pursuit. It allows finding a living person through a trace of their location. Our boy is thinking of Hyjin, all teary and sad. He wants to help a warrior. So he uses the scroll, spatial power, beam of light, seeing her walking back and forth. Why didn't you use it on the guy you want to find, you fool? It's fine since he can make infinite specials anyway. BM comes along, gives him a look, asks if he was scared, gives him a pet, and they're back to the dream world. Strangely, the water there became much clearer. He wonders if it's all thanks to the World Eater. Even the solar apples have leveled up. He visits the Pterodrome gang and the boss is getting huge. Oh no, it was just the angle. Our boy apologizes for the delay, he was very busy reading. The rascal then brings a bunch of seeds from some fruit for him. Our protagonist is impressed. The quantity has increased a lot compared to before. He thanks them. The leader points upward and our boy wonders, what is it? He starts climbing. Do you want me to climb? All right, here we go. When he reaches the top, he can see everything around. He recognizes a mountain in the distance as Mount Apedo, and this really proves that the entire continent of Yehina is within this garden. At that moment, Biam looks down angrily, wanting to get down to eat, but now he's stuck. It's easy to climb up, but hard to get down. As he starts to descend, something grabs him. It squeezes and he sees a little plant staring at him. He gets scared and the plant gets scared too. He calls out for help, Bium, save me. Is the plant evil? No, it just made a path for him. They are all affectionate. Our boy says, sorry, thank you for helping me down. He realizes, wow, it's just a cute little plant that likes to cling to people. Should I add this to the Hunter's Wiki too? Looking at the long path, he knows he'll have to cross this whole plain to reach Mount Apedo. He remembers that this is the direction the people who fled from the Eastern Kingdom went. According to the Pterodon's information, this might also be the direction Han Sungyuk, who disappeared, went. The map shows that following the Tails River also gets you close to Mount Apedo. Heading south of the mountain might be a good idea to find traces of Sungyuk, but when he gets there, he hits a barrier. This is as far as he can go, so he asks the Pterodon for help. While they investigate, he goes to feed Bium. The problem is, where's Bium? He's shouting for him to come over. Strange, Bium usually stays around but never goes this far. He hears something and looks over. It's the crazy carnivorous plant coming to talk to him. Our boy is now worried. Where's Bium? He bangs his head on a table in the shop. Bium, where did you go without me? We get so much together. At that moment, Haijun and Kyungsuk enter the shop. She asks, what's wrong, Jiha? Jiha replies, hi, who's this guy next to you? He introduced himself but keeps talking. He grabs a potion and tells our protagonist that what he has is extraordinary. Our protagonist thanks him, saying he will make tea for them. It seems our boy called her because she says, I was surprised you called me first. Our boy says he has something to tell her. She curious responds to me. He says, I was studying an ancient book and found something you might like. She looks at it. Scroll of change, trace. The protagonist says, this will help you find Sungyuk. Hyungsuk asks, did you make the scroll? How did you translate an ancient book? Haijin interrupts, we keep that a secret, right? Jiha confirms. Hyungsuk then asks, Mr. Jiha, did you make a contract with a divine creature? Our protagonist wonders to himself, does he already know about the demigods? The guy says, yes, a demigod. The guy explains, you don't have to tell me your abilities and how you use them, or none is up to you. I just want you to know that you have become a very important person in South Korea now. Our protagonist says, me? The guy explains, thanks to your potions, the survival rate of hunters has increased by 20%. The Hunters Association owes you a debt, so I came here to give you this. If you need anything, we will support you. Our protagonist feels awkward. Do I deserve this? The guy says, yes, you are the future of the hunters. Haijin interrupts, wait, you said you wanted to talk to him personally. The guy replies, I am talking to him personally here. Haijin apologizes to our protagonist, saying she didn't know Hyungsuk would come here for this business. He's a maniac. Our boy says it's alright, he appreciates everything, and next time he will make a good meal for everyone. The guy thanks him, takes a bunch of potions and leaves. Haijin comments, he's like that, only likes to work. Our protagonist says it's kind of cute in a way. They go inside to talk. She sits next to him and asks, what are you writing? He says, wait, I'm finishing up. He draws a castle and a lake. She asks, wait, is this the Eastern Kingdom's castle? That's right. He explains, if you see a place with terrain similar to this drawing, use the scroll when you're thinking of Sungyuk. If he's nearby or has any trace of him, the scroll will tell you where he is. He wants to show her how it works now, but he's running out of ink. She thanks him teary-eyed, thank you so much. He says, it's okay. I believe he's alive somewhere, and I will help you as much as I can. She says he's such a kind person, and he responds, it's nothing, friends should always help each other. She gets closer, asking, do you need help with anything? Tell me. He thinks, oh, she's getting too close. She asks, where is Bium? Where did he go? He says, he ran off. In the forest, Bium is jumping around, transforming, becoming gigantic. Even with his weakened body being destroyed hundreds or thousands of times, the Guardians hold their position until the last moment, and the prey of the god, Arctis, has come to find you. It seems Bium is hunting someone. He finds a little wolf trapped by goblins in chains, the one who conveys the will of the god, Growler. It's bad for the poor wolf, surrounded by 200 goblins. Let's see how he handles this. He's growling with everyone watching when suddenly they hear something. Looking back, they see a gigantic Bium. He walks through them without saying anything. He sends a message, Schumann, all those enslaved by evil. The goblins run away. He then talks to the little wolf, who looks at him and says, what are you doing here, you cowardly Arctis? It seems the creature has two names, Arctis and Bium. Bium breaks his chain and says, your torment ends here, Growler. Growler responds, you arrogant cat. But Bium explains, the restoration of the world tree has begun. Growler sits, only the will of God can guide me. Get out of here, you stinky cat. Bium bites him on the neck, take that. Growler asks, what are you doing, you bastard? Bium says, boy, you forgot I'm the procurator of God. If I say you go, and it's done. Then see our boy with his party friends all standing in front of a castle. It looks like the castle he drew while searching in the other world. He thanks them for coming with him. Soon-young says, no problem, compared to the potions you gave us, it's worth it. But why did you want to come here? This is just an empty dungeon, right? The protagonist explains the Black Lion commander helped some survivors escape during the war. There might be some kind of secret tunnel. Sun Young responds, oh, I didn't consider that. Maybe there really is something here. The Mohawked Knight says, I don't care about mentioning the fallen kingdom. I just hope there's some insane artifact inside. The sword he's using, a long knight sword, not only gives good stats but also increases the group's damage by 7% for 5 minutes. Our boy says, that sword you have is pretty good, isn't it? The guy looks at it. This is just a normal artifact. At least it has a group buff. Our protagonist thinks, I know it's a rare artifact. The guy asks, how do you know that? Our boy thinks, oh crap, I forgot only I can see this stuff. He lies, I recently received an item analysis skill. That's all. Everyone is impressed. Wow. Now they understand why he can describe the potions so well. The armored guy asks, hey, take a look at this for me. What do you think of my armor? Our boy checks light chest armor increases defense by 10% and critical defense by 5%. That's it. The mage congratulates him for finally getting a skill, and he thanks everyone. All happy. The knights are ecstatic. This skill is amazing. We're all going to get rich. Let's go. He hits them on the head. How dare you think of using the boy? They apologize. Sun Young tells him it's good that you've gained a skill, but you have to be careful. With something like this, you'll find bloodsuckers like those two everywhere. He laughs. Got it. But our boy thinks it makes sense. They continue walking along the wall. He thinks it might be good to ask Hyungsik later how to use his skills better. The knight points to a part of the wall destroyed by monsters. On the other side is the Tails River, much larger than anyone imagined, and the water is extremely clear. Our boy stands near it thinking, this place looks very deep. How did they make a tunnel here? He needs to check the back of Mount Apedo. Do you want to see in the book when everyone comes? Oh, are you drawing the place? What are you doing? At that moment, the Scroll of Hope in Sun Young's backpack activates, the one that increases the chance of receiving a special item by 70%. Our boy suddenly stands up, scaring everyone. She looks confused, but he stood up because he saw she was falling into the water like an idiot. There she goes again, drowning. Our boy heroically dives in, swimming like Michael Phelps to save her. But something is on his back. Look who it is. It's the World Eater, but very small. He saved them both. Outside, he tells her to wake up. You crazy, you're all drowned. A while later, they're back on solid ground. Our boy thanks the World Eater for saving them both. Then Soo-yeon calls him from afar, telling him to take a look. There's a strange magic circle with a small cauldron. Our protagonist is delighted. They thank the World Eater and say goodbye. Soo-yeon wonders, am I cursed without knowing? I keep falling all the time. The little knight tells her, at least you got that brooch. It seems good. In her hand is the artisan's last brooch. She asks our boy, does this have any special function? He examines it. Production artifact. Increases the quality of hand techniques by 10%. She's amazed, really. She tears out some pages from the book and makes an origami dragon. Our boy says this artifact is perfect for her. It would be perfect for me too for making potions, but it's her power too. The knight says, let's head back, the dungeon is about to close. Our boy thanks them and says we'll see them tomorrow. It turns out that the writing on the ground taught how to make a dimensional portal. Using the power granted by the gods, you can open a portal to a different dimension. You can return by drawing the same circle. Our protagonist is hopeful. I found a magic circle and got lucky. If I can figure out the secret behind this, maybe I can learn how the pterodones can travel so easily from the garden to the real world. He returns to the shop saying, well, I'm back. But then he remembers the rascal isn't there. However, he's as confident as ever, a psychopath who believes in everything. I'm sure he'll come back soon. I'll be to work. Back in the garden, he calls the kids, but where are they? Looking around, there's no one. When he looks to the side, he sees BM, gigantic with a little wolf in his mouth. Our boy asks, you rascal, when did you grow so much? And who is this stray dog in your hand? He takes a closer look. Growler, the messenger of God, asks for your help. Do you want to take care of the boy, yes or no? Our boy, of course, accepts. The creature begins to glow golden. The power of the world tree flows into Growler, and he starts to regain his strength. He glares at our protagonist, growling fiercely. But being so small, there's nothing he can do. Our boy grabs him because he's cute. Jiha names him Doggo, like a little dog. Truly a prodigy of creativity. Doggo doesn't like it, but BM says, just accept it, pal. This is your new home. A while later, the number of pterodones has increased significantly since Doggo arrived. It's probably because of his characteristics, demigod, and the master's will. It increases affinity and leadership with animals by 1.1, and also increases everyone's speed by 1.2. Chica says, this is very good. It means that just by Growler getting stronger, everyone gets stronger. Not to mention he still has the persistent hunter ability, detecting any movement within 2 kilometers. With Doggo leading, they will quickly reach Mount Apedo. The harvest is yielding a mountain of aether thanks to the kids. He picks a special fruit to give as a present. He's eager to eat it happily, but greedy BM comes and steals it. A fight breaks out. Our boy has to separate them, saying, hey, you two rascals, stop fighting. At that moment, the little plant sends a warning. He knows someone is at the shop. He returns, placing the two on the ground, telling them they're fat from eating too much. At that moment, the guys from the association are entering the shop. Doggo is feisty, already glaring at them. One of them says, man, you got another one, you rascal. Hyungsuk greets our protagonist, saying, I didn't expect you to invite me so soon. He feels a bit embarrassed. It was a big surprise. Hyungsuk cuts to the chase. Is it true what you told me before? You can see the characteristics of artifacts. Our protagonist confirms yes. The guild leader, whom our boy had previously refused, also speaks. Hi, it's been a while, Mr. Jiha. Our protagonist responds, yes, it has been. But what brings you here? Hunter Choi, if I may ask. The guy says, I know you refused guild offers last time, and I remember how angry they got. But I'm here for a different reason. The potions and scrolls you've been making are incredible, and as an alchemist, I'm getting jealous. Our protagonist, a bit embarrassed, thanks him. Hyungsuk says, let's sit and talk. We have many questions. A while later, he asks, up to what level of artifact can you see? Our protagonist explains, I can perfectly see the name, description, unique ability, and even the percentages. I discovered this while making some potions and artifacts. They are both impressed. With such a skill, it's almost like you belong to a class specialized in item analysis. Our protagonist, a bit shy, says he has the ability but doesn't know exactly how to use it. Hyungsuk says they will teach him. Besides, Hunter Choi is there for the same reason. Our protagonist is happy, saying he will help the hunters as much as he can with his skills. Hyungsuk continues, first you need to know there are only a few appraisers in the entire world. If your ability is exposed, hunters from all over the world will come to your shop, disrupting your daily life. But we have already made preparations for this. Our protagonist asks what you already did. In the Hunter's Wiki, there's a new post, Information, Artifact Appraisal. Poor Hwaeon is exasperated again. When she opens to see the information, it says, appraisals from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. For an easy process, the first appraised are the first to arrive. Maximum of 60 reservations per day. Location, Eternal Flame Guild Basement. Hwaeon is puzzled. What? That's my guild, how come? What's going on? I don't know anything about this. Next scene, there's already a line forming. Our protagonist is wearing a mask so no one knows it's him, just sending out artifact analyses to everyone. If you use this blade like the other blade called Witch of the East, every 30 seconds there's a chance to speed up your movement. The girl thanks him, thank you so much, Master Cat. He also thanks her, saying that analyzing artifacts is quite fun. The only downside is that it's a bit annoying to wear the mask. But it was worth asking Hyungsuk for help. Now he feels a bit embarrassed. He refused Hwaeon's offer to join her guild, but here he is, using her guild. Poor Hwaeon is banging the table in frustration. Choi says, calm down, my warrior. The worst part is he's thinking if she finds out it's Jiha, it will be even worse. She doesn't know a thing. She's upset, saying, I can't believe the reservations are full for 3 months already. Koi says, Miss, it's your fault for not being quick enough. She grabs him, you bastard. How could you do this to me? You should have told me earlier. Choi explains, I'm not the one in control, it's Hyungsuk. There's nothing I can do. The location was decided just yesterday. Besides, you told me I could use the basement for anything. She looks at a bunch of stacks and says, it'll take, I don't know, 2 years to analyze all this. Do something about it. No, we have some privilege since they're using our place. He says, I don't know, I'm leaving, I have a lot to do. Your time will come eventually, just wait and don't cause more trouble. She sits down angrily, thinking, where did this Master Cat come from? Who is this guy? If I find out, I'll make him my appraisal slave. Our boy's ears are burning. They won't stop talking about him. Our protagonist is explaining to Choi how to make high-quality potions. You have to shake it like this, my friend. That way the potion goes from special to very special. Choi looks, wow, we did it the same way, but yours has a 16-second duration and mine 11. What's happening? Our protagonist says it could be a variation in the quality of the ingredients, but in reality it's because he's already a level 3 alchemist, though no one knows. However, at least they made enough to sell tomorrow. Our protagonist thanks him for his presence, saying that with him here, the shop will produce faster. Koi says that he and the president of the Hunters Association want to recruit more alchemists. Good potions like these can't just be sold here. We need to open more and more shops. Please teach me more sensei. Our boy says that he needs to capture him, having only started as an alchemist recently. A while later, when they leave, he's exhausted and thinks, let's go to the garden. I'll just fall asleep. Upon arriving, the pterodon are busy with their harvest, creating mountains of aether. Our boy says, come here, kids, and they come happily jumping into his lap. Of course, they also argue with each other. The little knight pterodon comes and points in a direction. Our protagonist wonders, what's the problem? Brawler jumps and gestures with his head to call them too. He follows with the mosquito gang and wild dogs. Approaching, a system message appears. Creatures have appeared in the Great Plains. Growler demonstrates his command abilities. Wow, but Zork is tiny compared to him. With one paw, everyone flies away. A system says the pterodrone army successfully destroyed all creatures. The pterodrone evolved after receiving a demigod's blessing. A new species appears. Dalium, shining in the skies, comes into our boy's hand. Pterodrone Explorer. Due to your contribution, the plane begins to be cleared. A new area, Mount Apedo, has been unlocked. So that's how it works. Kill creatures to expand the area. Our boy praises everyone for their good work, especially Dago, who is all smug. Did you see my skills, kitty? BM says that he's too precious to get his paws dirty. The fight starts again, and our boy has to grab them. Let's go to Mount Apedo, you rascals. He hopes to find some clue. After walking a lot, he finally finds the base used by the Black Lion Knights group. Considering the base is here in the south, it seems there's some kind of passage halfway, a tunnel in the mountain. When our boy tries to pass, a message appears. The intervention allowed by the World Tree's restoration has been completed. Direct physical interference with Gehenna is now prohibited. Regarding your fate, the effects of being a representative of the divinities have now been applied. Communication with Gehenna entities is now possible. Jia understands that now he can't do what he did before when he created a space in the ground with a slap. From now on, he will have to act more like a commander. The problem is, how will he command the creatures if he can't go beyond this point? The system provides a solution: divine vision ability obtained. You can see the area from a god's perspective. Our protagonist activates it and starts floating, hovering in the sky. He sees everything from above and is impressed, but he instantly notices something. It seems his vision can be everywhere at once. There's an army of humans surrounded by orcs. Our protagonist wonders, could these be the surviving kingdom people who disappeared? The battle is intense, with creatures falling all around. Our protagonist sees a blonde guy fighting fiercely. Wow, could that be the captain? Someone calls out Eddie, the captain's name, and our boy recognizes him instantly. It's the Sunyuk that Hyujin has been searching for. Eddie says to him, "It's tough. These orcs keep coming. They seem to be emerging from the plains." Chuck, confused, says, "I don't know how this is happening." A cruel guy kicks an orc down the mountain, saying they could at least bring some food. At this rate, we'll have to eat monsters. Eddie assures him, "Relax, we won't let you starve." Sunyuk replies, "I told you many times that pig Porojak is working with the Baron. They're stealing our supplies. If you authorize it, I'll find where they're hiding everything, my dear prince." Eddie declines, "No, thank you." Our protagonist recognizes that the blonde guy is the prince of the Estran kingdom. With that, Sunyuk leaves with his men. A mission appears for our protagonist: rebuild the survivors' village. You have found the survivors of the Estran kingdom, who were defeated by the undead forces and escaped. The survivors, currently hiding in Mount Apedo, are struggling with numerous monsters and food shortages. Mission 1. Restore the possession of the Estran kingdom to the prince, reinstating him as the rightful owner. Mission 2. Find the villains. Get rid of those exploiting and abusing the villages, Baron Grom and Porojak. Jihad is impressed. He has never received a mission with so many details before. Is this some kind of story mode? But doesn't matter. Just finding Sunyuk is already great. Hyujin will be thrilled with this news. He has to find her, but then shakes his head. "First, I need to bring him back. I can't physically interfere with their world. How will I do this?" Then he remembers, "Actually, I can. I just can't do it myself." He calls the pterodones. "I'll need a favor from you guys. First, do you know what this magic circle does?" The captain points in a direction. When they get there, they find 2 circles. Our protagonist realizes that they're using ether to activate them. He throws it in the middle, and it starts glowing. Our protagonist understands that the green circle is the entrance and the yellow is the exit. The pterodones jump into the green circle and come out of the yellow one. Our protagonist says, "Wow, it's really a teleportation circle. The survivors probably use this instead of a tunnel. The exit must be somewhere near Mount Apedo. If he can find where it is, he can bring everyone back." He asks the pterodone, "Do you also use the magic circle to go back and forth between the garden and the real world?" They make an X with their hands. Jia asks, "Then how do you go so easily from the garden to Gehenna?" The captain points to the world tree. "What? The world tree is the bridge between the 2 worlds." Still confused, he thanks everyone for their hard work and asks the captain to look around Mount Apedo for any kind of magic circle, and to notify him if they find one. The scene shifts to the survivors' camp. The soldiers have gone to collect supplies. But when they reach the cart, it looks like there's only enough for a week. Eddie speaks to Porojak. "The amount of food here doesn't match the amount of minerals you collected." Porojak, knowing he's guilty, says, "We're having difficulties too. The farms were invaded by monsters." Eddie retorts, "Sure, I know." Porojak defensively says, "What did you say?" Eddie tells Porojak to calm down, enough of this. Eddie then asks Porojak, "What can we do to get more supplies?" Porojak says, "I'm not a greedy elf." But at that moment, Baron Grom appears, interrupting. "Maybe Mithril." Eddie is confused. "Mithril? Are you serious?" The Baron replies, "Yes." Eddie tries to explain, "Hold on, just leaving this village is very difficult because of the monsters. How are we supposed to get Mithril?" The Baron explains, "That's why I mentioned the wild elf. I got some information from one of them. There's a place in this valley where you can easily find Mithril deep within Mount Apedo." Porojak adds, "Clearly, with more Mithril, we could get a lot more food." The soldiers get angry, but Eddie says it's okay. "What's the way to this valley?" The Baron says it's to the south at the top of the mountain, but he isn't sure. "The only way to find it." Eddie cuts him off. "I understand. I'll do it." The Baron asks, "Are you really going to do it?" Eddie replies, "The kingdom of Estran has fallen, but I still have my followers. I won't let the people who follow me starve." Grom says, "Okay then, we'll be waiting for your return to go out and sell the mithril as soon as you get back." "Good idea," Porojak says, but Eddie adds, "I will go with you when I bring the mithril back." Grom responds, "Unfortunately, the elves don't like that. They don't let strangers into their villages." Eddie states the obvious, "I believe you were once a stranger too. The Baron reluctantly agrees. All right then, we'll do it that way, Prince Eddie. Sun-hyuk tells him, buddy, I know you like to play the hero, but I don't want to die. My lover is waiting for me outside. Confirmed, he and Hyejin have a relationship. For those who were shipping her with the protagonist, sorry, that dream is shattered. Eddie reassures, don't worry, I'll make sure we come back alive. We then see a girl with white hair and clothes in front of an altar, praying to a deity named Ark to hear her prayers. Baron Braum is right behind her, saying it's almost time, just a little longer. We then see the history of the Kingdom of the Strand. A long time ago, the Kingdom of the Strand existed on the continent of Gehenna. People lived peaceful and happy lives until a war against monsters began. The survivors of this war followed Prince Edinskull, or Eddie as he's known, to escape the undead. They hid in Mount Apedo. However, even there, they still suffered from creature attacks and food shortages. Baron Grom and Merchant Porojak had a trade license with the Wild Elves, allowing them to get food. In the end, Ed, Sin, and Yuki raised their swords for the people. Our protagonist, overseeing the scene from above, thinks, so this is the story of this place. But he's also angry. These guys are trying to hunt ogres on their own. Ogres are fear-level creatures. They have tough skin, heal quickly, have little intelligence, but can destroy anything in their path. Helping these people just with this vision ability is tough. Sin and Yuki are strong enough that no one can defeat them, and Ed has already defeated all the members of the Black Lion Legion. They have a chance, but it won't be easy. He then hears a voice on Mission Arc, please hear this prayer. Our protagonist is hearing the voice of the girl with white hair praying. He's confused. What's going on? Who is this? She's a wonderful girl asking for bravery for the people. Then a mission appears. Saint Selena requests your help. She pleads for your salvation. Mission 3, the pious prophet of God. Spread your beliefs by helping people through Saint Selena. And then extra mission. When Selena prays, you have 3 minutes to speak and exchange items. Our protagonist is impressed. Wow, can I use this? She seems confused. Wait, is someone here? Apparently, his voice went straight into her head. Whoa, she heard me. Before doing anything, I need to organize everything in the garden. He returns to the garden, where the Terradome patrollers are all wearing sunglasses. Why are you wearing those, my children? He gathers all the warriors and explorers, explaining that he has an urgent mission. They need to find the magic circle in Mount Apeyo. The explorers need to keep an eye on the survivors there. If anything happens, they should alert him. The bravest of them stays with him for an important task. He needs to deliver this sword to Prince Iskall. Their current weapons are far from sufficient. Look at this good party of brave ones, he says. Doggo asked Bium, are you going to let him go like this? Bium replies, it's not time yet. He still needs more power to deal with their presence. Until then, we can only wait. Doggo, frustrated, says, I'm tired of waiting. He'll die from waiting too long. Another argument breaks out. We then see Grom and Porojak talking. Porojak says, as expected of you, Baron. The prince is gone now. This is perfect for us. The Baron replies, he may be royalty, but he's still just a child. This world isn't easy enough to depend on a sword alone. Grom laughs, saying he hopes that the guy next to him dies too. The Baron asks, how's it going? Do we have enough? Porojak says that the Wild Elves said they're using it to hunt monsters. He tested it on one of the captured orcs, and the effect is incredible. Just a sniff, and the orcs go crazy. The guys are giving drugs to the orcs. They're confident, saying no matter how skilled the others are, they'll die in half a second. The Baron tells him to lower his voice, celebrate when it's all done. Now go, do your job. Porojak leaves but slams the door. Obviously, the villain thinks that bastard, he thinks he's better than me. You're just the same as me, you idiot. Looking out the window, the Baron says, Prince Iskall, when you disappear, I will no longer be a Baron. I will be the new king of Astran. Even Saint Selena will have to bow to me, and you will see everything from hell. Our protagonist sees it all, thinking, you damned scoundrel. He focuses on Selena's house. Hey girl, say a prayer. I don't have time. The system comments, at least things on the other side seem to be going well. The people are fighting, all buffed up. Slicing here and there, they're winning. Our protagonist is impressed, seeing that they might actually defeat the ogres, who are falling and trembling. One tries to flee, but gets taken down. This leader is ruthless. The ogre takes a hit to the leg, falling awkwardly to the ground. A sword strike to the spine. These guys are ruthless, painting the forest red. Sun-hyuk says, hey Ed, is there another sword? No man, mine's already trashed. Ed replies, no worries, I just wish the sword wouldn't break, Sun-hyuk says. Suddenly, someone threw him far away. Now it's just the drugged up orcs. They charge at the unfortunate guy standing there. His stoic expression is unshakable. Sun-hyuk warns him to be careful, but something strange happens. Something passes through the orc. Ed is confused. We switch back to Selena, beautiful and praying. Please protect this land, the prince, and his people. The system alerts, first prayer completed. Selena, a disciple of Ark, has successfully offered a prayer. You can send God's apostles to assist the disciple. Our protagonist is confused. What's this? He clicks yes. The mission reads, God's apostle, Terradrone Knights. He confirms, and his little companion shines, getting hiked up. Back in the fight, the ogre takes a hit to the chin. Look who's beating it easily. Another orc comes to strike but gets blocked and knocked down. Ed stands still, having done nothing so far. Sun-yuk tells Ed to snap out of it. Ed glances, and they both run towards the ogre's leg. One jumps on its back, the other on its calf. Slash here, slash there. Sun-yuk says it wasn't deep enough. Ed warns him to be careful. He gets thrown far away again. Woe still standing. I thought he was dead. The others help him up, telling him to be careful. Meanwhile, the Pterodrone is in a one-on-one fight, but another ogre approaches. The Pterodrone presses with his horns and sends it flying into the other. Perfect headbutt, almost romantic. The Pterodrome, standing tall, winks at Ed. Ed is confused. Why is this monster helping us? Our protagonist in the sky is impressed. The Pterodrones seem much stronger since becoming God's apostles. The only downside is the high essence cost to maintain them, but it's the only way to help. The system asks, do you want to extend God's apostle duration? Requires 5 essences for every 10 minutes. Our protagonist decides to continue supporting them. Ed recognizes the golden light as a symbol of Ark. The ogres get up, growling, we're going to die here to green bastards. Poor Sun-yuk struggles to stand after the intense hit. Ed asks, are you okay? Can you still fight? Suddenly, Sun-yuk stands up saying, yes, he was just acting. These ogres have high resistance. A long battle is a disadvantage for us. We need to finish them in 3 minutes. Ed challenges him, show me then. The ogre charges at the Pterodrome, who grabs his arm. Sun-yuk rushes in, since you like healing, let's end you before you can. He activates a speed boost, his blade glowing, leaps stylishly into the sky, and slashes the ogre's neck, decapitating it. Our protagonist is impressed. Wow, he killed a berserker ogre in one hit. The #1 hunter is truly different. But then Sun-yuk's blade breaks in half. He laughs, saying he used too much ether on the blade. A blinding flash occurs during the Pterodrone and ogre fight. Sun-yuk sees the beast charging at him and gets scared, but the ogre falls dead. Struggling to get up, he says, today's not my day. Ed comments, you're drawing a lot of attention today. It would be easier if I had a good sword, Sun-yuk replies. They thank the Pterodrone, now looking fluffy and gigantic. It turns and flies away. They wave goodbye. Back in the protagonist's hand, he says, good job. In the church, a worker brings food to the saint, saying she'll get sick if she doesn't eat. The kind and wonderful saint insists on giving the food to a hungry child instead. She returns to her prayer. Ark, please, bring some hope to our poor souls. That's when she heard a voice asking if Selena could hear him. She started crying, saying she could hear the voice of God Ark. He simply said he was an apostle and told her to send the prince east. She was confused, but he explained that there was something he needed to find there. Selena, excited, said she would pass on this information immediately. One of the guys nearby wondered if the saint had gone mad. Seeing that there were only 8 seconds left in the conversation, he told her to wait a moment and warned her to stay away from Baron Grom because he was up to something. Then he was disconnected, leaving Selena confused. Our protagonist hoped she understood the message. The Baron muttered to himself that it was better to leave. At that moment, she looked back and saw him retreating. She spoke to the heavens, saying she would take his words to heart. With that resolved, she had to do his part. In the forest, Eddie asked his friend if he was okay. He said he was fine because he had been through similar situations many times. Everyone wondered what those monsters were doing. Gia's creatures were busy collecting crystals until someone called out to the prince. When he looked back, it was a maid. Confused, he asked why she came running and if something had happened in the village. The woman said she brought a message from the saint. Selena told him to go east because there he would find what he was looking for. Sun-yuk was confused because the mithril was supposed to be to the north. Eddie asked if Selena said he would find it, and the woman said she didn't know but that she had received an oracle. He asked Eddie what he thought, and Eddie said he had no idea, leaving the decision to him since he was the captain. Eddie suggested that maybe those giant beetles were related to Ark, and if that was the case, they should go there to find out if it was true. He turned to the knights and said they would move separately, and they agreed. Sun-yuk ran and grabbed the guy's sword, but Eddie told him to relax because he would give him a much better sword later. The scene shifts to Gia meeting Hyjin. She looks confused, asking what he's doing there. Our boy just smiled, saying it had been a while since they last saw each other. She approached, asking why he was there, and he said he had a favor to ask. She invited him in and he thanked her. Inside, she asked if he really wanted Sun-yuk's sword, and he said yes. Confused, she asked why he needed his sword. Jiha said he had heard that Sun-yuk was in Vihina at that moment. She seemed emotional, asking if that was really true. He said yes, and that he hadn't told her earlier because he didn't want to give false hopes. Excited, she stood up, saying she would do anything to help, and ran upstairs, asking him to wait a minute. Moments later, she returned with Sun-yuk's sword. It was a symbol of the contract of Growler, which only the contractor could use. Jiha said the sword of the warrior's cry was incredible. She was confused, asking how he already knew the name. He revealed that he was the so-called Master Cat. When he went to grab the sword, it was heavy and he almost fell. She explained that Sun-yuk's sword had much more ether than other hunters' weapons. He started putting it in his bag, thanking her for lending it to him. Outside, she thanked him for everything, and he said it was all right. He would find a way to bring Sun-yuk back. Hyjin smiled, saying she believed he would because he was an incredible person. Our boy blushed but said he had to go. Back at the shop, he wondered where the troublemakers were. They were right at the door, hesitating but seemingly wanting to say something. One looked at the other, urging the other to speak. Dago nudged Jiva's foot, and Jiva realized maybe he wanted to go with him. He petted him, saying it was okay since he must have his reasons. With that, they were in the forest. Meanwhile, Sungyuk and Eddie were arriving in front of a castle. Eddie remembered that this was the place they used to escape. Knowing there must be something there, they decided to go in. However, someone was watching them from behind. Inside, they discussed how Mount Apeto had many tunnels. Sungyuk asked if the place where Eddie was found was nearby. Eddie said yes and asked when he was going to repay the favor. Their friend jokes that he was an anxious guy and the creatures he had already killed paid that price. With that, he laughs, saying he was just kidding. Then Eddie tells him to stop because he found something. They both look down and say it looks very suspicious. It would be strange for a trap to be marked with an X on the ground. Sungyuk taps the ground, asking if anyone is there. Even with a simple touch, the ground starts to break. Within a second, the entire floor collapses. He tells his friend that now the favor is fully repaid. Eddie tells him to activate the ether in his sword to use it as a torch, which he doesn't like. However, as they walk a bit further, something catches their attention. They see a strange golden sword stuck in a stone. Sungyuk asks if Ed knows that one. He says that sword is the seal of the kingdom of Istran and goes to take it, wondering how it got there. The moment Ed raises the sword, the protagonist starts receiving multiple achievements for Prince Edinskal breaking the seal. Now the prince was recognized by Ark and communication was possible. He even received the observation ability, allowing him to see the potential of allies. Gio was smiling, thanking Ed. Observing the Valley of Griffins, he wondered why people were gathering there. A system message said the Terradrones were there and asked if he would support them. As always, he said yes. He saw the entire army and wanted to test the new ability he received. Seeing that the Terradrone's experience bar was at 95%, he knew there was at least one more evolution. The only problem was that the creature was already very strong. What would happen if he made it even more powerful? However, seeing that many other Terradrones also had experience bars, he knew the ability would be very useful. But first, they needed to defeat these griffins. So he poured a bunch of experience points into the kids. Just then, Dado appeared, calling for him. Gio turned and asked what the problem was. At the same moment, the dog jumped into his bag and he asked if he was hungry. But Dago stole the sword and Jiha told him to stop because it was dangerous. Strangely, Dago ran to a portal and stood there with the sword in front of him. Suddenly, the puppy started to glow and the system said that Growler was recovering the power he had lost. However, it would cost 2,000 essences and the system warned that if it failed, he would revert to his primordial form. Jiha only had 2,300 essences but didn't want to disappoint his friend, so he withdrew everything, saying to use it. A blinding light enveloped the area and all the essence energy passed to the dog. A while later, Jiha found himself in a space. When he opened his eyes, the dog was gigantic in front of him. He hesitantly petted it, asking if it was his friend. But the creature wasn't happy and made a face. A voice said it had been waiting for this moment with the Apostle of God and advised him to stop being called by that ridiculous name. Jiha started sweating, saying he didn't realize he disliked it so much. However, the dog turned, saying it wasn't about disliking it, just that he didn't like that type of name. Then it thanked him, saying because of him, the world had another chance. Poor Jiha, feeling embarrassed, said he was a bit confused. The dog warned that his mission from now on was crucial. Whether the entire world would be destroyed or restored depended on Jiha. A light appeared, and the dog said it was out of time, telling Jiha to become stronger. Jiha, confused, said he was already too old to be called a child. Once again, he was blinded by the light and woke up in the forest, lying in the grass, confused about what happened. He got up, exhausted, saying he needed to learn to stay more focused. However, determined, knowing that Growler said his mission was crucial, he would do his best. A Terradrone flew to him, and he said he was fine. He took a book and said it was time to return to hunting griffins. He started writing another spell. The scene shifted to waterfalls filled with flying griffins. While walking through the mountains, Ed couldn't believe they found the seal that had been lost. Sunhyuk, angry, said he wanted a weapon for himself. He turned to Ed and warned him that he needed to learn to draw his sword before hearing excuses, especially since if he didn't, the Baron would turn against him. Confidently, Sunhyuk said he would slit the Baron's throat if necessary, but Ed replied that those were his people, even if they did bad things. Sunhyuk sighs, saying that if Ed wants to keep being fooled, he can go ahead. But then Ed looks up, and something seems to catch his attention. The entire mountain is glowing, and they have no idea what's happening. Back to Jiva writing in the book, he's observing the fight and noticing that the Terradrones are winning in numbers. The problem is, while the Terradrones can only fly forward, the Griffins have full control in the air and can change direction. The only one who has a chance is the Terradrone Knight. Then he sees a group coming out of the cave, carrying a net and looking determined. Jiva smiles, thinking it's a great idea. The nets are thrown towards the Griffins, managing to trap some of them. However, the fight is still tough, and the Terradrones are struggling, and something shines next to Jiha. The potential of the Terradrone Knight has reached 100%. The little one raises his arm, and now he has received the shockwave ability. Jiha watches as he raises his glowing purple claw and strikes down. The energy sweeps over all the griffins. Jia gives a thumbs up, saying that was amazing. From a distance, Eddie and Sunhyuk are blinded by the light. They recognize that it's the same Beal from before and realize they might be coming to help them. If that's the case, they decide to join the fight. Suddenly, a giant beetle appears in front of them. Before they can say anything, the beetle draws a house on the ground. They are confused, not knowing what it means, but seeing the beetle point towards the city, they understand it wants them to return to the village. Sunhyuk thinks something might have happened there. Eddie thanks the beetle and says they'll leave that place to the Terradrones. Watching them go, Jia thinks that's the most he can do for now. The two run as fast as they can, hoping everything is okay in the village. Then Sunhyuk is shocked seeing corpses on the ground, saying that someone finally acted. Eddie recognizes the soldiers as Baron Grom's men. Suddenly, Sunhyuk puts the sword to his face, making him a vow of revenge. Eddie tells them to hurry, as the saint has probably been kidnapped. Sunhyuk swears to kill the bastard who took Eddie's woman and asks where they might have taken them. Eddie suggests they might be hiding them in the nearest village. The scene shifts to a castle with people at the entrance, watching as others pass by. The saint is held hostage among the nobles. A fat man says that unfortunately, Idinskull wasn't with the group. Another man says it's fine because Idinskull will come on his own. Looking at the knight, he asks where the amazing prince is. The knight says he should have cut his neck before. The Baron agrees, saying to hang this man at the castle and send the rest to prison. The saint shouts at the Baron, asking if he really thinks he'll get away with this, warning him that Ark will punish him. The Baron grabs her face, saying if Ark were alive, the world would be like this. He tells her to stop praying to a false god and maybe start serving him. At that moment, someone puts a sword to his neck. Turning around, he sees it's one of his men, but it's actually Idinskull, saying he won't sacrifice people for the Baron's greed anymore. The Baron realizes his plan is ruined. The fat man orders everyone to kill Idinskull, but Sunhyuk appears, asking why he thinks Ed is alone. He warns everyone that those who resist will be killed. Seeing Jaya kneeling, he says there's no need to pretend anymore to end this. A few seconds later, both barons are immobilized, saying the prince will regret this. Eddie approaches, saying he gave them a chance to serve the people. Drawing his sword, he declares that from now on, the barons recognize the seal on the sword. He raises it to the sky, saying he will rebuild the kingdom. Jiha, in his gigantic god form, observes everything from above. The second mission to banish all evil is completed. Now the third mission is to start the kingdom's foundation. He helped Prince Idinskull and Messenger Celine regain their positions. Now he needs to expand the survivor base to build a new kingdom. Jia hesitates, receiving many missions at once. He also receives mission 3-1, make a contract with the saint. This will help gain the people's trust without needing prayers. Mission 3-2 is to prove the qualities of a king. Idinskull has received the seal of a king but needs to prove his qualities. Additionally, he needs to clear the other monsters in Mount Apido and find a specific location. As a reward for all these missions, he will receive the sanctuary. Jiha is confused, wondering how a sanctuary will help expand the place, and the location is probably covered by the mist. But now that he has contact, he can pass the missions through the Oracle. He receives a notification that the Griffin raid is also complete. Seeing the happy Terradrones, he says he needs to deal with that first. Smiling, he tells them to discard the Griffin corpses and start moving all the essences to the garden. However, one of the items they found was Griffin eggs. Jiha is exhausted, having received many missions, events, and now some eggs on top of it all. The system notification appears again, and he wonders what's happening now. It's a notification that the Terradrones found a rare material called dimitral, and now the worker-class Terradrones have been added to the army. Seeing the cute creatures, he says it's great. He picks up a Terradrome with a little hat. The worker class specialize in gathering, mining, and crafting items. They can even collect a metal cube. The little worker shows in one, saying he mined it. For mining the first, he receives a reward and can choose one of the abilities, a medium-class artifact or doubling the number of worker Terradromes. Jia thought all the options looked good, but he was more curious about the artifact. As soon as he clicked, a purple energy formed in front of him and suddenly a dagger appeared in his hand. It was a high-quality dimitral knife. The 30 elemental resistance would be good to help him survive. However, he remembered Sunhyuk, who had low resistance. At that moment, the knight appeared and Jia asked how he was. The knight was feeling proud because his wings were now covered in dimitral. Jiva told him he couldn't monopolize everything and get strong alone. Then he looked toward the village, wondering what was happening there. The people were gathered around a campfire, celebrating and praising Eddie for his good work, while Sunhyuk complained that he hadn't known about the kidnapping plan. Nearby, the two barons were still in prison, and Eddie announced that they would be exiled from the village tomorrow. Sunhyuk said that was too generous because they might return, but Eddie replied that generosity was a necessary trait for a leader. Sunhyuk, frustrated, said Eddie was too kind to be a king. However, his friend put a hand on his shoulder, saying he would always remember his advice. Jian then mentioned that the biggest problem now would be food since they relied on hunting. Eddie suggested that the best plan would be to open a trade route with the north and negotiate with the elves. At that moment, Selena appeared, calling for the prince. He asked if something was wrong, and she said he needed to see something. Selena began to pray, surrounded by a blue aura. She raised her hands, and a golden message appeared. Giant explained that it was written for the royal family and directed by the Apostle. Selena approached and said that this was what the oracle had said. Eddie thought about the Apostle of God while Giant was pleased that Selena was completing all the missions. Mission 3.1 was completed, and now he could communicate freely with her. Sunhyuk commented that it might have something to do with the beetle since both had a golden light. Selena asked about the beetle, and Eddie explained that the creature saved him in the middle of the battle. Sunhyuk told Selena to inform her god that there was a lost guy here. Smiling, she said she would try to find a way to help him return to where he came from. Seeing this conversation, Jia said it was enough for today and that he would provide more information tomorrow. He told the Pterodrone that the day was long and he still had a lot to do. He called Biam and Growler to go back home. But then he remembered he was still in Gehenna. Biam called him, making him confused, and he noticed something that caught his attention. The Griffin hunt had yielded much more essence than he had imagined. At that moment in the Griffin dungeon, Suyao's group was following the tips they had received. She opened the book and conjured a web of leaves. The paper started sticking to the eyes of the flying griffins and everyone charged in to finish them off. Haijin activated a sword surge, slicing through them in the sky. The group found it too easy until the knight noticed something on his back. Hueyana conjured a giant fireball and the poor creatures ran desperately, fearing for their lives. She was excited, saying it was very easy. The guys with burnt hair complained they would go bald in her group. Then everything started to shake and some stones above them began to fall. When they hit the ground, a cloud of dust rose and everyone covered their faces. Haijin asked what it was. In front of them, a cave had opened. They entered, wondering it was a secret dungeon. Haijin said it was best to take a quick look and return as soon as possible, but Hueyun wanted to rush in and finish everything because she was confident. Haijin convinced her, saying an unknown dungeon was extremely dangerous. The white-haired guy tried to calm her down, saying there was no need to hurry. Strangely, he stepped on something and stumbled, falling like an idiot in front of everyone. A girl came to heal his head. Suddenly, Suyang stepped in front and told everyone to get out. She recognized the pattern on the ground. It was the same circle they had encountered last time. Back at the castle, the two barons were being expelled. The knight asked if they were sure, and Giant said to just continue. Grom warned that the prince would regret this, but Aginskul just watched. He approached and called for the baron, drawing his sword, saying he would give him another chance. Hia placed the sword on the baron's neck, warning him to stop risking his life. He told him that his neck would be cut if he messed with those people again. With that, he turned to the knights and said they could go. The two barons ran away in a panic. However, Grom looked back and muttered that Dan and Inskul would pay for this. Sunyuk expressed his dislike for this attitude. Eddie seemed confused, and Sunyuk said that Giant mentioned the boy was too soft. But Jia was just watching everything, thinking that the king was a good person. Being able to help someone like that made him happy. He decided that he would have to use the guide of the god apostle. There were many creatures on that mountain after the ogre's death, and it wasn't wise to take risks. He clicked yes, saying it would help them navigate. He looked at the Pterodrome and said he was counting on him once again. At that moment, a portal appeared in front of the gate, and the Pterodrome began to emerge in front of everyone. However, the creature was even larger than before. The two realized it was the work of the apostle that Selena mentioned. With that, the Pterodrome pointed north. They immediately turned to the other knights and said they would follow him. On the way, they were sure it was related to the Griffin Valley incident. However, Sunyuk just wanted to know when he would get a decent sword. Suddenly, the Pterodrome stopped and stared at a mountain. He extended his arm, and they wondered what he was doing. Then he struck the mountain, creating a shockwave impact that made them cover themselves. They soon realized the Pterodrome's attack had broken a camouflage barrier. Sunyuk scolded the creature, telling it to warn them before doing something like that. But Eddie told him not to be harsh because the creature meant well. With that, the Pterodrome flew away. The knights approached, asking if they were okay. Sunyuk told the prince to stay back while he and Giant checked it out. The old man was reluctant, but Sunyuk insisted that they couldn't let the prince take such a risk. They started walking into the cave until Giant saw something and Sunyuk smiled. They found a cache of resources that the two nobles had hidden from the village. He informed Eddie, who said it would solve the food problem for a while. The cart was loaded and Eddie told them to be careful of monsters. Sunhyuk exited the cave, complaining he hadn't found any weapons again. He said that now everything seemed resolved, he should start looking for a way to get back home. At that moment, someone screamed up ahead. One of the men was on the ground begging to be saved while everyone else ran. What they saw was a gigantic growler. The prince and Sunyuk stood in front of the man to protect him. However, they were unsure if they could defeat the creature. Growler bared his teeth and Eddie said he would go to the right, but Sunyuk told him to stay put, saying a prince must care for his people. Facing Growler, Sunyuk told Eddie to flee and ordered the citizens to leave the area. As Eddie looked back, he prayed for Sunyuk to survive. A swipe from Growler exploded the ground, but Sunyuk was confident, saying it would be just an exercise. However, a strange window appeared before him. The test of the howl had begun, and he had to prove his strength. Suddenly, Growler leaped toward him. While Sunyuk was staring at the cistern window like an idiot, he noticed a shadow above him just in time. He barely managed to block the attack with his sword. Realizing the fight wouldn't be easy, he had to drop the paw and roll to the side to avoid being crushed. He muttered that it was too difficult if this was the test. It looked like he would have to get serious. He activated the aether in his sword, and Growler, with a red aura, stared him down. Without fear, Sungyuk rushed forward. Instead of attacking head-on, he slid under the creature's belly and quickly reached its hind leg. With a swift move, he aimed to cut the leg, but the agile dog managed to dodge. Sungyuk was surprised by its intelligence and took a heavy blow, getting thrown to the ground like trash. Realizing it wouldn't be easy to deal with such strength, he noted that the creature was at least disaster level. Meanwhile, the cart group had encountered a horde of goblins. Giant and Eddie were at the front, telling everyone to hold on until they reached the village. They knew they urgently needed a way to help Sungyuk. Jiha, having exhausted the apostle's ability, was unsure what to do next. A window indicated that he couldn't intervene in this quest because something crucial was happening. All Jiha could see was a mist. He had no idea that inside, Growler was attacking Sungyuk. The poor guy dodged again but was getting increasingly worn out. He wanted to know where that window came from and what this howl test was. However, he was excited, saying it looked like he had to take it seriously. Activating an agility ability on his feet, he advanced toward Growler. But this dog was too clever, easily dodging him. Sungyuk tried to move to the side, but the monster anticipated his strike. However, Sungyuk had a trick up his sleeve and used a quick movement ability. Just as he was about to strike down, the cunning dog easily dodged to the side. Now he was off balance with no way to recover. He took another swipe, this time smashing him into a tree. The poor guy fell to the ground like a fool. Growler said he was too weak compared to the previous generation and wasn't prepared for the power he could receive. Sungyuk slowly tried to get up, saying it wasn't over yet and asking the dog to wait a moment. But Growler just raised his paw, saying he was too weak for this. I thought Sungyuk would do something, but the poor guy was just crushed. Helpless on the ground, he couldn't react as Growler approached, swinging his sword and saying he couldn't die yet. But the dog simply bit the sword. At that moment, he realized his chances had dropped significantly. However, the timer hit 0 seconds, and he had passed the test. Growler smiled, saying he was getting too soft. This left Sungyuk completely confused. With a golden aura, Growler said that Sungyuk was just a peasant born with a certain destiny, and this was the opportunity given to him. The energy condensed, forming the sword, and as it approached Sungyuk, Growler said he would now carry the creature's name. Sungyuk found it strange that the sword, which was once his, was there. He knew he had found it in a dungeon long ago, so how did this happen? However, he recognized the sword well and raised it to the sky, shining. He wondered if this god really existed, as the saints said. Then he heard a scream and realized it was time to go back and get out of this haze. He started running, saying he would save Eddie. With that, Gio was notified that the quest was over and that Growler was returning. Like before, he returned as a cute little dog. Jiha, happy to see him, held him in his arms. Now without the energy, he was smaller, and Jiha said he was even cuter. He petted him, saying he had missed him. Meanwhile, in the forest, the goblins were being slaughtered. Eddie's group was almost at the village when Giant told him to look back because someone was coming. I thought it was Sungyuk, but it was actually an army of goblins buffed with red energy. Eddie turned to fight, knowing things would get more dangerous if the creatures entered the village. He easily killed several goblins while the goblin lord was pounding on the village gate. Inside, everyone was holding the gate, trying to prevent the creature from entering. But slowly the gate was breaking and the goblins outside were eager to charge in. The creature raised its mace, concentrating a purple energy. At that moment, it felt something strange. It looked to the side, sensing danger approaching. But it was too late. Sungyuk had already passed it. Eddie was surprised to see his friend had arrived, and half of the goblin lord's body fell to the ground. Sungyuk smiled, asking if Eddie had been waiting for him. Now excited with his new sword, he was on top of a wolf. The remaining goblins fled in fear, and Eddie asked where he got a wolf and a sword. Sungyuk explained that he was recognized by that wolf. He dismounted, saying he would show what he meant. He touched the sword to the creature and said to cancel the summoning. It dissolved into the air and returned to the mark on the sword. He explained that the giant wolf they had seen before was actually his guardian. He almost died, but in the end, the wolf said it was his destiny and gave him the sword. He explained that the only strange thing was that this was the same sword he used in another world. This meant there was also a way for him to return to where he came from. Eddie said it made sense for him to have a guardian, since the gods would never support an evil person like him. Suddenly, the gate opened, and they turned around. It was Sage Selena running and asking if Eddie was okay. He said he was doing very well, and they had managed to drive the goblins away. Most importantly, they also found a lot of food. The princess thanked the prince for his hard work, while Sungyuk complained that he deserved thanks too, since he worked much harder. The saint replied that it was nothing more than payment for the blasphemies he committed. Eddie told them to stop joking and come inside because everyone was hungry. With that, they headed back to the village. Jiha, observing, noted that everyone seemed to have made it home safely. Looking at Growler, he said they should also head back since he must be tired. They crossed the portal and Jiha called for Biam, who came happily. He showed Growler, now much smaller, to Biam, who promptly bit Growler's neck and carried him away, saying he finally did a good job. Biam placed Growler in a cave and told him to focus on recovering, even giving him a gentle pat, to which Growler grumbled, telling him to stop being so friendly. Then Biam called Jiha over. This time, He wanted to lie down on Jiha's lap, and Jiha said it had been a long day for everyone. They would talk to Hyjin about everything tomorrow. At that moment, the plant began shaking, indicating a customer. Jiha returned to the shop, asking who it was. It was Sumyeon's group of adventurers, telling him to open the door. He found it strange that they were there so late at night. When he opened the door, he saw Huiyan and Hyjin with them. Huiyan immediately confronted him, asking why it took so long to open the door, and he said he wasn't doing anything important. However, he invited everyone in, saying it was cold outside. At the table, he asked about their sudden visit. Sunyoung showed a drawing of a marking they found previously. He recognized the magic circle and asked what the problem was. Hyjin said they also found that marking in the Griffin dungeon. This caught Jiha's attention since the Terror Drones also fought the Griffins. Huiyan mentioned using an incredible ability that helped them find a secret passage. The group said it was mostly by chance and everyone nearly died because of it. Chika suddenly stood up and said he needed to ask a favor from everyone. He started to leave and the group was eager to know why he was so excited. Jiha began counting from 1 to 7 and the group heard a cry for help. He reappeared at the door, asking for help because it was very heavy. He brought a bunch of essences and told each of them to take one. Huiyan was shocked, saying she had never seen such large essences. Jiha explained that if they placed these essences on the circle, they could create a portal to Gehenna. He asked Hyjin if she could lead the mission, and she, feeling emotional, said yes, she would definitely do it. Sometime later, they were back in front of the cave. The group once again advanced along the same path. Around the tree, the grass was growing now that there were no more monsters. Jiha told Byum that maybe the village people could live there. The only big problem now was mangacaps. He hadn't expected so many creatures to flee from there for an attack. Something caught his attention. Strangely, only Eddie and Sungyuk left the village to confront the monsters. Of course, Sungyuk immediately raised his sword and the conversation was not going to be long. Eddie told him not to lag behind, and with that, Sungyuk's wolf started to appear. He named his creature Little Wolf. Jiha remarked that the boy didn't know how to name pets, which made Byum look dumbfounded. With that, he gave the order to advance. Their destination was now to reach the Elven Wild Village. Along the way, they killed all the orcs. Jiha was impressed, having forgotten that Sungyuk was the #1 hunter. Eddie Inskul was also quite formidable, easily cutting through the orcs. He turned and called for Eddie. Just then, an overlord was about to strike, but Eddie concentrated and swiftly sliced off all the ogre's fingers. Eddie told Sungyuk to move ahead, assuring him he would follow right behind. He had to deal with the group in front of him. Suddenly, a shadow covered him. The orcs looked terrified. The Terradrone had arrived, quickly grabbing Eddie by the cape and running off, leaving the orcs in the dust. Sungyuk said that the god was too kind, helping even when things were easy. However, Jiha was smiling, saying there was no reason to waste time. With that, the two advanced through the waterfalls. From above, Eddie thought to himself that Mount Apedo was larger than he had imagined. He wondered if that was really where the village of the Wild Elves was located. Looking down, he could see Sungyuk was close by. He turned to the Terradrone, saying it was very kind. When the creature accelerated, he asked it to go a bit slower. After a while, they arrived, but the poor guy was exhausted. Sungyuk and Little Wolf laughed at his expense. Before they could thank the Terradrone, it flew away. Sungyuk thanked it and recalled Little Wolf. He wanted to know why they were brought to the elves' village if he knew nothing about negotiation. Eddie said he would handle that part, but wanted to see if the elves knew a way to send Sungyuk back. This was because the wild elves were the oldest and wisest. Sungyuk laughed, saying it seemed his friend really wanted him to leave. Suddenly, an arrow struck the ground in front of them, and Eddie said they seemed pleased to see them. From atop one of the trees, an elf told them to stay put. Eddie explained that they were survivors from the village on Mount Apedo and just wanted to talk. However, the elves weren't keen on conversing, stating they no longer talked to humans. Eddie went to draw his sword, startling Sungyuk, who questioned if he was crazy. Eddie drew the blade, remaining silent. The entire group of elves aimed at them, making it clear they wouldn't get out of this easily. Sungyuk asked Eddie if he was sure they could win. Eddie introduced himself again as Dinskul, Prince of the Kingdom of Vestran. An elf descended from the tree and Eddie showed him the sword, saying he could check the seal to confirm his identity. The elf, angered, said this proved Eddie was with Porojak and Grom. Immediately, the two clashed swords, each blade at the other's neck. The elf warned Eddie to let go or he would die. Eddie replied that he knew what the two barons had done and was there to fix it. The elf retorted that he didn't believe him since the barons had stolen their food and killed their people. Eddie dropped his sword and told Sungyuk to do the same, leaving him confused. Eddie ordered him to obey. The elf then ordered them to be blindfolded and taken to the village. The two were carried away by the Legion of Elves, not knowing where they were being taken. The tribe members pointed and whispered about the newcomers. Sungyuk muttered that it would have been better to show their strength before negotiating, but Eddie told him not to worry. He believed the elves were rational and would give them a chance to talk before things got out of hand. However, the elf shoved Sungyuk, telling him to stop talking. They arrived at his cell and the gray-haired elf ordered them to be imprisoned, giving them a kick. Sungyuk grumbled that it would have been better to stay in the village than be humiliated like this. Eddie insisted that he should calm down and assured him everything would be resolved. Sun Yuk decided to sleep, seeing no immediate solution. The gray-haired elf observed them while Eddie wondered what the barons had done to the elves. After some time, some elven children came to look at the two, amazed since they had never seen humans. Guards arrived and cleared them out. The gray-haired elf brought the elder to talk to them. The elder ordered their release, confusing the gray-haired elf. The elder explained that if they wanted to escape, it could break the bars at any moment. He asked Edinskal if he was right. Eddie was puzzled by the elder knowing his name. The elder recalled him from before they lost contact with the kingdom of the Strand. Approaching, he asked why they were there. Eddie said that before discussing that, he wanted to know what the barons had done. The elf placed a dagger to his throat, telling him to stop lying. The elder calmed Cordell down, and Eddie said he didn't know what they had done but was there to take responsibility. The elder, confused, asked if he really had no idea about what had happened. The prince explained that they also faced hardships in the village because those guys hid food there. It was only recently that they found a lot of things hidden in Mount Apego. The elder, confused, said he believed that place was full of monsters. Sun Yuk mentioned that they had dealt with most of the monsters with the help of a giant beetle. Obviously, there were still some creatures, but their numbers were much lower than before. Both found it strange since the barons had gone north when they delivered the food. Ed explained that when he exiled the barons, they seemed to have some kind of backup plan. Cordell said they couldn't trust him as he might be deceiving them. Ed explained it was a misunderstanding and all he wanted was to reopen the trade line and also deal with the monsters. Cordell questioned what trade he was talking about. Ed mentioned the minerals they had been sending in exchange for food. Sun Yuk then remarked that it seemed those bastards had deceived both sides. The elder commented that if this was true, it meant there was some other third party involved further north. However, he warned that they couldn't trust them, as both could be lying to take more food from that place. Ed asked what they had to do to prove their innocence. The elder said they should bring the minerals they were supposed to have received. Then he said the guy from the other world would go and fetch them while Ed would stay there. Confused, Sun Yuk asked how he knew he was from another world. The elder explained that all elves were connected to the mother tree, and that people like him from other dimensions had appeared several times in history. Sun Yuk smiled at Ed, saying they really did know something, and told the elder he would handle it right away. The only thing he asked for was his sword back since he might encounter some danger. Cordell was hesitant, but the elder nodded. Sun Yuk was soon in the forest, and the elf brought his sword, warning him not to do anything foolish if he wanted to see the prince alive. Sun Yuk laughed, saying they shouldn't underestimate the prince or they would end up on the ground. The elf replied that he would never lose to a human. Just then, the strange breeze passed over them, and Sun Yuk smiled, saying that Mr. Beetle had arrived, not alone, but with an entire group, bringing a lot of essence. The elder was shocked to see that the workers of the World Tree still existed. Meanwhile, Gio wondered why a new area had opened up just now. The Wild Elven Village had been discovered. He received mission number 4, which was to uncover the secret of the Wild Elves. Once again, he had to clear the monsters from another region to gain access. Most of the elves were insecure and confused by the scene. Sun Yuk was greeting a bunch of Terradrones that were bringing the mithril. Obviously, it was Jiva who had given this mission, telling the Terradrones to assist the prince and Sun Yuk with whatever they needed. The Terradrone tossed a giant mithril ore into the elder's hands, making him question why the Terradrones were helping these two people. Sun Yuk said it was obvious they were helping because there was no other reason for them to bring the mithril. Suddenly, the Terradrone pointed to the side where they saw some green herbs. The elder asked if it wanted those, and the Terradrone nodded. Jia smiled, saying he had done a good job and now it was time to bring Han back. A while later, Ed was also released, but the elf said he was just following the elder's orders. Ed said he didn't care about gaining their trust since humans and elves would be just trade partners. Sun Yuk hugged both of them, telling them to calm down a bit, but the elf pushed him away, telling him to keep his dirty hands off. At that moment, the elder came with Ed's sword and handed it to him. Ed said he wanted to ask the elder a few things. He asked about Sun Yuk arriving 3 years ago and how they could make him return. The elder questioned if he couldn't return the same way he came, as the World Tree should still be connected to that other place. Ed explained they found him by a lake for the first time and believed the place he appeared should be near the royal palace. The elder suggested that might not be the case as the connection of the World Tree begins at its root. A confused Ed asked what he meant by that. The elder explained that the tree in Sun Yuk's world and the one in their world were connected by the same root. In other words, if he could follow the energy within the tree, he would likely find the passage. The route ends at Mount Apegado, which is why most people appear there from time to time. The elder mentioned that if he had a good relationship with the Terradrones, it might be worth asking them, saying that he must have noticed these beetles appear out of nowhere. It's because they are World Tree workers following the roots. Ed said it made sense since they once appeared right in front of the village. Ed then thanked the elder, saying they would ask the beetles for help. The elder commented that the trade routes must be full of monsters. Ed said they didn't have many soldiers but would resolve it over time. The elder then asked the Growler to assist them, saying that to ensure everything went smoothly, he needed to send someone trustworthy. Sun Yuk laughed, saying the elder was very clever. With that, no choice, and was sent with them. Ed thanked him, and Sun Yuk said he would help the Weird One to socialize. The elder approached, saying his role was extremely important for the village's recovery, and they set off. They were riding on Little Wolf, but the poor creature had to hurry. It asked where they were going since that route was different from the one they came by. The elf explained that the area was full of griffins, so it was better to use the underground tunnels. However, Sun-Yuk said the beetles had already dealt with those griffins. The elf smiled, saying they would see if it was true. They arrived at a cave that was once used by the World Tree workers when everything was safe. Sun-Yuk said it was great to have someone like Willie around. The elf told him to stop annoying him, saying he was only doing it because of the elder. He warned that even though the place was safe, they shouldn't let their guard down because you never know what might be lurking. It asked if the tree really existed since he always thought it was a myth. Growler said he didn't expect humans, who are nothing but the tree's dust, to understand its existence. Suddenly, the sword on Sun-Yuk's back began to glow. Growler asked to take a look at it. As soon as he unsheathed it, a blinding light enveloped them. Looking at the blade, Growler said it wasn't his imagination, he had felt it. He explained that the sword was considered a divine instrument containing the power of the god Ark. Sun-Yuk said he knew it was an incredible sword, but he wanted to understand why it was glowing. It was a sign that something in the cave required the sword. The scene shifted to Huiyan casting a fire explosion. They were facing a horde of skeletons, and she was clearing them out. One skeleton found a gap in the flames and lunged at her, but Haijin intercepted and smashed all three. The group was puzzled by the endless number of monsters. They had been fighting for a long time, and it seemed endless. Huiyan maniacally told everyone to step aside so she could finish them all at once. Concentrating all the energy in her staff, she told everyone to clear out. She unleashed a wave of lava, sweeping through the cave. The exhausted group celebrated the victory. She boasted, saying now they had to wait for the skill cooldown. Suddenly, Haijin screamed that something was behind her. She turned to find herself covered by a shadow. A skeleton enveloped in a purple aura prepared to strike her down. She broke out in a cold sweat at the sight. Fortunately, Haijin stepped in and defended her just in time, but was thrown aside, crashing into a wall. Now the redhead was about to be torn apart. One of the group members rushed over, barely saving her from being sliced. The skeleton turned around. The group's tank called everyone to be cautious. Sun-Young activated her paper glue spell. Sheets of paper began to surround the skeleton, blinding it. The knight asked if everyone was okay. Huiyan fainted, apparently from shock rather than injury. The teammate tried to wake her up, but she was sweating profusely. The skeleton managed to break free from the papers. Sun-Young said her magic wasn't strong enough. The healer rushed to Haijin asking if she was alright. Haijin couldn't understand why such a high-ranking monster was there. Suddenly, she received a blessing from the World Tree workers and obtained the Scroll of Change. Haijin was confused about what it was. She was then surrounded by a green breeze. Her movement speed increased by 100% and her attack speed by 50%. Additionally, with the Victory Wind passive, she can recover part of her health. Haijin says she doesn't know what's happening, but now they have a chance. This happened because Jiha spent essence to guarantee the effect for her. The group is surrounded by a barrier while she faces the boss. Jiha knows that even with the buff he gave, it won't be easy. Fortunately, with the herbs he got from the elves, he can make more scrolls. The skeleton strikes the tanker's shield. The gray-haired guy asks Huiyan if she's okay. She says yes, but she was caught off guard. He then turns and says they need to help because the two of them alone won't hold up. Angrily, she says she'll turn him to ashes. With that, the two join the fight. The big skeleton almost hits Haijin, who manages to dodge by jumping. Unfortunately, her sword can't penetrate the armor. The only chance is to hit the joints. Huiyan tells Su-Young that they need to create an opening for Haijin. Once again, she activates the glue page's effect. While the skeleton raises the axe to hit Haijin, Huiyan had already prepared her magic. With that, the paper and fireball hit the magic together. The group wondered if they had managed to win, and Haijin realized that even though the damage wasn't enough, it helped a lot. She activated her magic, which created several swords. She prepared to attack with the buff Jiha had given and jumped, hitting him on the arm. The problem was that the attack didn't work. Now she was hanging in the air without any way to react. The skeleton hit her in the belly. Once again, she was thrown far away. The group was all confused, not knowing how they would win that. Jiha began spending essence again to try and help everyone. Buff windows started appearing for everyone. However, Jiha knew that even this wouldn't help for long enough. From afar, he was just watching Huiyan, saying she was the last hope. Then a flash of light passed through the cave. The skeleton looked back, knowing something was coming. Sun-Hyuk's little wolf bit its shoulder. Jiha was delighted because he knew who was arriving. While the skeleton tried to break free, someone jumped down from the top of the cave. It was Sun-Hyuk with an angry face. The attack hit the same spot where the wolf had bitten, and the creature's arm fell to the ground. The group asked what that was, and Huiyan knew very well. Sun-Hyuk had reappeared after 3 years. However, the boy was also downcast, realizing it wasn't enough. The skeleton came to strike him with an axe. The attack exploded on the ground, creating a purple aura, while Sun-Hyuk's sword had the same glow. He noticed that Haijin was lying down being healed and wondered why she was there. Huiyan ran over, asking if it was really him. Confused, he wanted to know how everyone was there, but Huiyan said they had to solve that problem first despite the many questions. This time, the skeleton raised the axe, releasing a purple aura. From the ground, several other skeletons emerged. The healer said she was doing her best, but Heejin wasn't waking up, so the two decided to protect her while the others dealt with the boss. Wei-An used her magic to kill the revived skeletons, while the knight tried to fight the skeleton. The skeleton retaliated, trying to strike Sun-Yuk, who dodged and hit it on the arm again. The problem was that even a full attack left only a scratch. Sun-Yuk said that if he couldn't cut it, he'd pulverize it and used an ability to destroy weapons and equipment. However, the skeleton counterattacked with the axe surrounded by purple energy. Once again, Sun-Yuk was thrown to the ground and the boys kept getting tossed around. This time, he didn't get up in good shape. The skeleton came to finish him, but now there was a crack in its shoulder. Sun-Yuk realized that the creature was at least at the disaster level and was running towards him. Wei-An took advantage to create an explosion. She could hit full on, but the monster didn't seem to back off. Once again, it faced Sun-Yuk. The same cursed purple energy was traversing the entire cave. After the explosion, the place was full of smoke, and Sun-Yuk almost got hit in the head by the axe. Ed, who appeared out of nowhere, had stopped the skeleton. Sun-Yuk said he was very late and heard someone say that the creature's weak point was the center of the body. Ed realized it was the apostle's voice, and right after that he passed this information to Sun-Yuk. Jiha was observing everything from above in his own world. Unfortunately, he could only use the blessing ability one more time. He prepared the ink, hoping for something good this time. Again, he wrote an enchantment in the book and got excited, saying this one was perfect for him. Suddenly, Sun-Yuk felt something. He received the blessing of the workers, a buff that made his attacks hit the target unconditionally for 5 seconds. Ed was having difficulty staying on the monster. Once more, he activated the aura and had to step back. Sun-Yuk was enveloped in a double aura and said that it was enough. Together with the wolf, he ran towards the skeleton. The first strike hit the belly, reaching the core. In one touch, the skeleton began to crumble and half of his body disintegrated. Watching the monster disintegrate, he wondered if it was over. Suddenly, all the other monsters also disintegrated into nothingness. Jiha celebrated the victory while Sun-Yuk fell exhausted to the ground. At that moment, Ed came over, saying he owed him another one. He helped him up, commenting that he seemed to know who those people were. Sun-Young thanked him, saying they indeed knew Sun-Yuk. The group gathered around the unconscious Haijin. Suddenly, she opened her eyes and started crying. Seeing Sun-Yuk, she hugged him with longing. He apologized for taking so long, but said he was back. Jiha, in the beyond, was emotional, while the Terradrome was confused. Then a window appeared for Jiha. The secret tunnel had been cleared, which would accelerate the restoration of the world tree. From afar, Arfoot's cry could be heard. Jiha wondered if Arfoot was another demigod. From the sky, a golden unicorn appeared. Beav and Growler wondered how to capture such a fast creature. They began to think of plans, but knew none would work. The creature already seemed to be on another mountain, and they knew they had to stop it somehow. Suddenly, Jiha heard barking outside. As he approached, he asked what the two were doing there. Then a strange golden light passed by him. He saw it look like a horse and must be a demigod by the way the two reacted. He remembered this creature was the mount of the god Ark. Watching from the mountains, he wondered if he should try to talk to it. But Ark was too fast and soon disappeared from sight. Jiha could barely see the creature's movement. Suddenly, Ark stopped and stood face to face with Jiha. The next second, it ran towards him. Jiha was startled as theoretically he had never been seen this way before. Suddenly, it seemed he woke up back in the forest. It was as if the god Ark was calming the monster, which relaxed in the middle of the field. Jiha approached and gently petted it, saying it was very cute. From afar, the two beasts wondered what name Jiha would give the creature. Jiha took the pony to the garden and said its name would be Penny. The creature ran off, probably annoyed by the horrible name. Knowing he could make something good with them, he thanked Penny and gave it a bunch of carrots. From behind the trees, Beam and Growler were just watching. Ark got a bit annoyed, telling them not to come near the carrots. They argued for a bit and then all sat together under the tree. Jiha took the herbs, thinking of making red ink. He imagined that color symbolized strength and aggression. Maybe he could create some kind of weapon with it. After some time, the ink was ready. Lying down, he wondered what he would tell everyone when they saw the pony. The next day, back at the shop, Jiha realized he couldn't keep so many creatures there. Suddenly, a gate appeared. Curious, he looked and saw it led to a grassy field. Strangely, the gate had an infinity symbol above it. He guessed it was something from the tree. Then Sun-Yuk and Haijin entered the shop. Jiha was very happy and welcomed them. Sun-Yuk had no idea who he was, but he knew the name Jiha. Haijin thanked him for all the help. He said it was nothing, but Haijin insisted she didn't know how to thank him. Jiha said it was good they were there and invited them for tea. That's when she asked about the pony. She questioned where he got it, and as always, he said he couldn't tell. They chatted and he found out Sun-Yuk talked a lot about the other dimension. Jiha thought peaceful days would continue, but something unexpected happened. The griffins were attacking the forest and his plantation, or rather, the 4 baby griffins he had taken from those eggs. The other animals were exhausted from playing with them and had nothing left to do. While thinking about how to solve this, he saw the Terradrome. He called the knight and suggested they might need to move these creatures elsewhere. He showed a part of the map, suggesting it might be a better option. The knight gathered all the griffins, made a noise to see if they would follow, and they did. Excited, they followed the knight, flying behind him. A window appeared for Jiha, saying he was guiding his legion to the purified sanctuary essential for Hina's ecosystem. His animal handling and tree blessing skills leveled up to 3, along with the sanctuary's unlocking. Jiha could now consume all the ether to gain a new ability but would be left exhausted. He figured it was a kind of final move but very risky. When he tried using it on himself, he realized there was no ability he could awaken. However, he saw the Terradrones could awaken the absorption of abilities, absorbing other creatures' powers. Those not suitable for their bodies would require metamorphosis. Jiha got excited because he could also help the hunters with this. He decided to check out this sanctuary development. Just to access it, he had to spend 500 essences. He paid the price, the fog lifted, and he wondered if he could bring anything there. However, touching the nearby river triggered a system warning as he had created a tidal wave. He realized his actions now had a direct impact on the environment. The system offered to tell him what the place needed for 100 essences. He paid and found out he first needed to develop the soil. The system suggested using worms as a good alternative. He wondered where to find them, but soon saw the Terradrone solving it for him. He smiled, knowing he could always count on them. The system then announced he had unlocked a new world, lifting part of the fog, revealing another region. From afar, he saw what looked like a mix of a praying mantis and a crab. He remembered reading in the newspaper that this type of creature required a lot of hunters to deal with. He immediately sent an army of Terradrones to Jism. He wondered why they were using pieces of the world tree as shields, but if that was the plan, it might work. When they arrived, they started getting beaten by these abominations. Jiha was impressed that the Terradrones were taking hits but were retreating and healing. He remembered some elixirs he had stored in the cabin. Rushing back, he threw them to the Terradrones to drink. The creatures replenished their health and were ready for combat again. Once more, they charged, but the abominations sent out a shockwave. One attack hit the Terradrone group directly, but the knight emerged from the smoke, slicing through 3 of them in one swift motion. Jiha was pleased that the elixirs were effective. With them, they could win. When he saw the knight's body glowing, he wondered if it had absorbed an ability. The knight approached him and knelt. This released a roar that created a shockwave through the forest. Jiha was excited, and the little creature was impressed with its newfound power. To him, it had been another extremely productive day. Back at the shop, they talked about a trip to the beach. Someone insisted, and Jiha said it had been a while since he had gone, so it might be a good idea. But when he asked when it would be, someone stopped a car in front of the shop and said they were leaving now. On the way, Jiha said he hadn't expected it to be so soon. The person replied that summer was too short to wait. The car was packed, and Jiha agreed, saying the more, the merrier. He just hadn't expected those two to come along as well. Huiyan and her guildmate. Sun Yang asked where he got a pony in Korea. He said he had randomly found it in a dungeon. A while later, they arrived at the beach. For a while, they watched the sunset. Then the group called him back to the hotel. Throughout this time, Jiha thought it was sometimes good to spend time like this. At night, he leaned on the balcony to observe the moon. Suddenly, Huiyan called out to him, asking where the like on this video that helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers, activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out.